Welcome to Mia Horror Stories. To make it easier on your eyes, this video plays against a black screen, so you can close your eyes, get comfortable, and let the story take over. But don't relax too much, the ending might just catch you off guard. Stay with me until the very last word. The monitor at bed 12 didn't alarm. That was the first thing that made it wrong. In a hospital, alarms are the background music, sharp chirps, drawn-out tones, the occasional panicked chorus when somebody's oxygen drops, and everyone pretends they didn't hear it until they absolutely do. But this was quiet, not peaceful, just absent, like someone had reached into the building and turned one channel down. I stood outside room 412 with a paper cup of coffee going lukewarm in my hand, watching the rhythm strip on the hallway monitor. A steady, boring line. Heart rate 78. Oxygen 97. Blood pressure last cycle fine. The kind of numbers that make you relax without meaning to. Then the screen blinked once fast, like an eye twitch. The patient name at the top of the panel changed, not to another patient, not to test or disconnected like when a lead falls off. It changed to date. For 12/1999, I stared long enough for the coffee smell to stop registering and the disinfectant to push forward again. Lemon cleaner over bleach, the scent of a place that doesn't want you to think about what it really is. The date held for maybe 3 seconds. Then the name snapped back, Martin. The numbers never changed. The alarms never triggered. Nobody else reacted. Across the hall, a cart squeaked one bad wheel, always one bad wheel, and I felt my body remember that it was 2:17 a.m., and I'd already been awake too long. I lifted my badge and tapped the scanner at the room door anyway. Habit. Something to do with my hands. The lock clicked, and the soft, negative pressure hiss met me. The little breath of air that always makes the room feel like it's exhaling when you enter. My name is Claire Hart, and at that moment, my brain was doing what it always does on night shift, trying to make the weird thing normal before it becomes a story you have to explain. I'm 32. I've been a nurse long enough to stop calling myself a new nurse, but not long enough to be one of those people who can eat a granola bar in a code without blinking. I work nights on the surgical step-down floor at St. Bridget's Medical Center in Portland, Oregon, because nights are quieter, because the politics are less sharp, because I can do my job without performing it, and because I have a private flaw that I don't advertise. When something feels off, I want to fix it alone first. I don't like being the person who cries wolf. I don't like being the person who gets laughed at in the break room later. Room 412 smelled like warm plastic and stale linens. The IV pump clicked every few seconds in that steady way that becomes comforting when you're tired. A portable fan hummed in the corner, turned toward the window, even though it was January, and the glass looked like a black mirror. Evan Martin lay, angled slightly to one side, half propped on pillows. 64, post-op from an open reduction internal fixation, broken hip from a fall off a ladder. The kind of injury that comes with a story about independence. The kind of patient who insists they were fine until their body made a decision without asking them. His mouth was open just enough to show he was breathing through it. His hair stuck up in a stubborn wave at the crown. The pulse ox on his finger glowed red, blinking like a tiny lighthouse. The bedside monitor showed him steady. No arrhythmias, no drama. I moved closer, the soles of my shoes making that sticky peel sound on the tile where someone had mopped too recently. I checked his IV site. Clean, no swelling. The clear tubing caught the overhead light. The call light cord was tucked between the mattress and the rail, out of reach. I pulled it free and looped it where he could grab it if he woke up confused. Routine. Something normal. Then I noticed his phone. Most patients kept their phones in the bed, on the tray table, shoved under a pillow. Evan's was upright, propped against his water pitcher like it had been set there intentionally. The screen was on, not a video, not a game. The Notes app, one line of text, big white letters on black. Answer the overhead PA in our hospital is a tinny voice that announces codes and bed requests, and occasionally a lost visitor. It's annoying, not ominous. I leaned in a fraction, because tired brains do that like proximity changes reality. The letters stayed crisp. No autocorrect mistakes, no punctuation. I touched Evan's shoulder gently and felt heat through the thin gown. "Mr. Martin," I said, keeping my voice low. "Evan, you awake?" He didn't move. I checked his pupils with my penlight. Normal response. I watched his chest rise, measured, slow. He looked sedated, the kind of sleep that's heavy but safe. Pain meds and exhaustion. I glanced back at the phone, and for a second, I had the ridiculous thought. Maybe he sleep-typed it. People do weird stuff on Ambien. People call their exes. People order inflatable kayaks on Amazon. From the doorway, someone cleared their throat softly. I turned. Janelle Ruiz, 26, female, stood with her hands on the med cart handle like she was anchoring herself. She was in her second year as a nurse, and still had that slight stiffness of someone who double-checks every word before it leaves their mouth. A pen was tucked behind her ear. A strip of tape stuck to her scrub top, forgotten. "You in there, Claire?" she asked. "I saw you go in. Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said too quickly. Then, because lying cleanly is harder at 2 a.m., I added, "Monitor glitched." For a second. Probably a network hiccup. Janelle's eyes shifted to the bedside monitor, then to Evan. She did that quiet nurse math. Stable patient, stable room, stable coworker. "What kind of glitch?" she asked, like she didn't want it to matter, but needed it to. I could have said the date. I could have said the notes thing. I could have made it a shared moment, the way you're supposed to. Instead, I heard myself say, "Nothing. It's fine. Just tired." Janelle's expression softened, but there was a look under it, her version of my flaw. She hated missing something. She hated being the person who didn't catch the early sign. "You want me to pull biomed?" she offered. "Or IT? We can put in a ticket." "Not yet," I said, and immediately wished I hadn't made it a decision. Decisions have weight. Decisions can be wrong. Janelle stepped into the room anyway, the med cart squeaking behind her. The squeak was familiar enough to settle me a little. "He's due for vitals at 2:30, she said. "I can take them now if you want." I nodded, letting her do it, because it gave me something else to watch. She wrapped the blood pressure cuff around Evan's arm, careful not to tug the IV. The machine whirred and squeezed and released. Numbers appeared unremarkable. Evan's phone screen dimmed a fraction, like it was about to time out. On impulse, I tapped the screen to keep it awake. The note disappeared. Not deleted, not scrolled away. Just gone, replaced by the lock screen photo. Evan with a woman in a red rain jacket, both smiling into sun glare like it was too bright to look at directly. Janelle glanced up. "What was that?" "What was what?" I said, and hated the sound of my own voice trying to be casual. She pointed her chin at the phone. You looked like you saw something. I exhaled through my nose. He had a note up, probably nothing. Maybe he was trying to remind himself not to press the call button for something dumb. Nell's eyebrows lifted. What'd it say? I could feel the hallway behind me even though I wasn't looking, the fluorescent light striping the floor, the distant beep of a pump in another room, the soft thunder of the ice machine dumping a fresh load. Ordinary sounds that suddenly felt like a thin layer over something else. Before I could answer, the overhead PA clicked on. That click is always the same. A relay. A little throat clear of the building. And a voice started to speak. Not the usual operator. Not the cheerful recorded chime first. Just a low, hesitant inhale too close to the microphone. Then, Claire, Janelle's head snapped toward the ceiling tile speaker. Her mouth opened slightly, like she was waiting for the rest. My hands went cold in a practical way, like my body was diverting resources. I stared at the speaker grill embedded in the ceiling, the dust caught in its edges. The overhead is not supposed to say your name. Not like that. The voice continued, faint and distorted, as if coming from far away and right beside us at the same time. Claire Hart, can you? It broke up into static. Then, in the hallway, I heard the clerk's phone ring at the nurse's station, sharp and insistent. Janelle looked at me. I looked at her. We both had the same thought, plain and immediate. Do we answer that? And the choice sat between us like a dropped instrument no one wanted to pick up first. Janelle didn't move. Neither did I. The overhead speaker fizzed again, like someone rubbing aluminum foil near a microphone. And then the voice cut off mid-syllable. A second of nothing. Then the PA clicked out like it had never happened. Down the hall, the nurse's station phone kept ringing. Janelle's eyes were wide but focused, the way they get when you're trying not to spook a patient, even if the patient is asleep. Was that? She started. Probably a misroute, I said, because my mouth wanted something to stand on. Sometimes the operator, you heard your last name. I heard something that sounded like it. I forced myself to turn away from the ceiling speaker and step into the hallway. Movement helps. Night shift logic. At the station, the unit clerk, Marcy Dunn, 54, female, was hunched over her keyboard with one hand over her headset like she was trying to hold her skull together. Marcy had worked nights longer than I'd been licensed. She was the kind of person who knew every extension by muscle memory and hated surprises that didn't come with a clear form to fill out. The phone on the desk rang again, vibrating the stack of patient labels beside it. Marcy snatched it up. "Fourth floor, step down," she said, already irritated. "This is Marcy." A pause, her eyebrows pulled together. She glanced up at me, then away, like she didn't want to make eye contact with whatever the caller was saying. "Slow down," she snapped. "Who is this? What department?" Janelle hovered behind me, hands clasped so tight her knuckles looked pale. Marcy pressed the receiver closer to her ear. Her mouth tightened. "No, you can't use the overhead like that. If you're in the building, you come to the desk or you call security." "Which room?" Another pause, longer this time. "Which room did you say?" I stepped closer. "Marcy." She held up a finger without looking at me. Her gaze stayed fixed on the computer screen like it could translate the call into something sensible. Then her eyes flicked to the board, where bed numbers and names were written in dry erase. "Room 412, she repeated into the phone, voice flattening. "Evan Martin." Janelle exhaled a sharp little sound. Marcy's face shifted, annoyance draining out, replaced by something like reluctant attention. "Okay," she said slowly, like she was negotiating. "Okay, stay where you are. Do not," she stopped, listening, then repeated, "do not enter the stairwell." "Fine, I'm sending someone." She hung up too hard. The receiver clacked. "What was that?" I asked. Marcy's hand hovered over the keyboard, then jerked back as if she'd touched something hot. "That," she said, "was a man whispering like he's hiding in a closet. He said he's maintenance. He said there's someone on 4 with a badge they're not supposed to have." "That could be," Janelle began. Marcy cut her off. "He said the badge number out loud." She looked at me now, finally. "He said your name, Claire, and he said it like he already knows you." A prickle ran up my arms that wasn't mystical and wasn't dramatic. It was the simple human feeling of being watched when you didn't consent to it. "What did he want?" I asked, because it was easier than asking how. Marcy swallowed. "He said the man is in room 412. Janelle turned toward the hallway immediately. "Evan's asleep," she said. "He's post-op. He can't even, or he can," Marcy muttered, and then seemed to regret it. I remembered the phone in Evan's room, the note, "Answer the overhead." My mind tried to slide into the familiar groove. Maybe it was a confused patient. Maybe it was a prank call. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe I was making too much of it. My private flaw revved up like a car engine in cold weather. Handle it yourself first. Don't make a scene. Don't be dramatic. Then the call light panel at the desk lit up room 412. A steady white glow. Not the code blue light. Not the bathroom alarm. Just a normal call light. Janelle stared at it. "He's awake," she said, or someone pressed it. Marcy's voice sharpened again, the way it does when she's scared and trying to bully reality back into place. "Call security," she told me. "Now, and don't go in there alone." We should have listened to her immediately. That would have been the clean, policy-compliant move. But policy doesn't live in your bones the way habits do. Janelle was already walking fast down the hall. Not running. Nurses don't run unless someone's dying. But that clipped pace that says you're about to ignore your own better judgment. "Janelle," I called after her. Wait, she didn't. Not because she was reckless, because she was the kind of nurse who pictured a patient trying to reach the call light and failing. And the guilt of that picture was worse than fear. I followed, and I hate admitting that the reason I followed wasn't only Evan. It was also that the overhead had said my name, and some part of me wanted to prove to myself that it meant nothing, that I could walk into a room and make it normal again. The hallway felt longer than it had a minute ago. The fluorescent lights buzzed in a way I usually tuned out, like insects trapped in glass. Somewhere, a TV murmured from a patient room, a late-night commercial with laugh track cheer. Room 412, the door was closed. It hadn't been closed when we left it. I was almost sure. Janelle reached for the handle. "Stop," I said, grabbing her sleeve. "We wait for security." Her jaw clenched. "The call light's on. We can talk through the door. You know how fast someone can aspirate if they're—" "I know," I snapped, too harsh. Then softer, because I heard myself. "I know." Janelle looked at me like she was weighing which version of me she was getting tonight. The competent charge nurse, or the one who didn't want to escalate. I put my face close to the door, not touching it, and called, "Evan, it's Claire. You okay in there?" Nothing. No shuffling, no groan, no nurse, the way they usually say it like you've been personally depriving them. Janelle leaned in, voice higher. "Mr. Martin, can you tell us what you need?" Still nothing. The call light stayed on. Marcy's voice came faintly from the station down the hall, talking fast into another phone's security, I assumed. Janelle's hand went back to the handle. "Claire," if he fell trying to get up. "I'm not saying we don't go in," I said, heart thumping in that practical way it does before you do something you'll have to chart. "I'm saying we do it smart." There was a crash from inside the room. Not a scream, not a dramatic slam, more like a tray table tipping or something hitting the floor and bouncing once. Janelle flinched. "That's him." My stomach tightened. Okay. We didn't have time to perform perfect policy anymore. The situation had turned into a problem with a ticking edge. I swiped my badge. The lock clicked. Janelle pushed the door open. The room was darker than it should have been. Not unlit, just wrong, like the bedside lamp was off and the overhead hadn't come on with the door. The monitor glow painted everything in pale blue. Evan was not in the bed. The sheets were pulled back. The pillow was skewed. The pulse ox clip lay on the mattress, blinking uselessly with nothing in it. The IV pump was still running, tubing trailing, but the line was disconnected, and saline dripped steadily onto the tile in a tiny rhythmic tap that matched the fan's hum. The tray table had been tipped. A plastic cup rolled slowly near the wall, making a faint rasping sound. And in the corner by the bathroom door, half behind the curtain, I saw movement. Someone crouched low, shoulders hunched. Janelle sucked in a breath. Evan. The crouched figure didn't answer. Instead, they lifted their head just enough for me to see the hospital badge clipped to their chest. Not Evan's, not ours. A visitor badge, white and flimsy, with a strip of masking tape over the name. Like someone didn't want it read. Then the bathroom door clicked. From the bathroom, a man's voice, close, muffled, urgent, said, Don't open it, please." And at the same moment, from the hallway behind us, the lights flickered once, hard like the building took a breath. Janelle and I stood frozen in the doorway, the door slowly drifting inward on its hinge, and the choice snapped into something sharper. Step in and close the door, trapping ourselves with whoever was inside, or back out and leave a patient wherever Evan was unaccounted for. Janelle moved first. She didn't step into the room. She shifted sideways, bracing the door with her foot so it couldn't swing shut, keeping the hallway light spilling in like a safety line. "Security is on the way," she said, loud enough to carry. "If you're not supposed to be here, you need to show yourself." The crouched figure flinched. A shoulder bumped the curtain. Plastic rustled. From the bathroom, the man's voice came again, sharper now. "Don't listen to him. He's not staff." I felt the adrenaline kick in properly then, not the cinematic rush, but the narrowing. Sounds sharpened. The drip of saline on tile became obnoxiously loud. Somewhere down the hall, a cartwheel squealed, distant and irrelevant, and still too present. "Everyone stop talking," I said, surprising myself with how steady it came out. One at a time. I didn't step fully into the room either. I leaned in just enough to see more without committing my whole body. Geography matters when you're scared. Doorway advantage. "Bathroom," I said, aiming my voice toward the closed door. "Who are you?" A pause. Breathing. Close to the mic, feeling again. But this time it was just air through teeth. "My name is Daniel Weiss," the voice said. "I'm 39. I'm not supposed to be here. Neither is he." "Who is he?" Janelle asked. The crouched figure shifted again. I saw a hand mail, rough, a healing cut across the knuckle. No gloves, no visible weapon. That detail mattered, Daniel said, the guy by the curtain. He followed me up from the loading dock. That's not true, the crouched man said quickly. His voice was younger than I expected, tight. She's lying. I came in with the patient. With Evan, I asked. Yes, he said, too fast. I'm his nephew. Janelle shot me a look. Evan's chart had no nephew listed as an emergency contact. A sister, deceased. A partner, female, name matching the woman in the red rain jacket on his phone. Okay, I said. If you're family, you know he can't leave the floor without staff. Where is he? Silence. Then from the bathroom, a soft thud, like someone leaning too hard on the sink. Daniel's voice came strained. He helped him. He made him get up. That's a lie, the crouched man said, louder now. He was already confused. He tried to pull his IV himself. I was trying to stop him. My pulse hammered in my ears. 2 stories, neither good, both plausible enough to stall us. Behind us, the hallway lights flickered again, this time just over our section. A stutter, then steady. My brain leapt where it shouldn't, and then corrected. Older wing, overloaded circuit, night shift weirdness. I grabbed that explanation and held it tight. Janelle, I murmured without turning. Security ETA, she glanced down the hall. They said 2 minutes. 2 minutes is an eternity when a post-op patient is missing. Attempt 1, call for help, hold position. I lifted my badge radio. 4th floor, step down, room 412, I said. We have a missing patient and unauthorized individuals in the room. The radio crackled. Someone acknowledged. The sound grounded me a little. Bathroom door, I said. Daniel, do not come out yet. Stay where you are, and him, Daniel shot back. Same goes, I said to the crouched man. Hands where we can see them. He slowly raised his hands, palms out. Visitor badge swung on its clip. The tape over the name was sloppy, hospital beige. What's under the tape? Janelle asked. He hesitated. Fell off earlier. Take it off, she said. He peeled the tape back. The name underneath was printed crooked, like it had been run through a machine too fast. WSS, Janelle inhaled sharply. They have the same last name. Doesn't mean, the crouched man started. The bathroom door rattled. That's my badge, Daniel said. He took it. Attempt 1 failed. The facts didn't line up cleanly, and the clock was still ticking. Attempt 2, find Evan. We're not solving your family drama, I said. Finding my patient. I scanned the room properly now, forcing myself to look at the details I'd avoided. Bed empty. IV pole still here. Bathroom occupied. Window closed, blinds half drawn. Closet door ajar. Closet, I said. Janelle shook her head. He can't fit. People fit where they shouldn't, I said, and pushed the door open with my foot. Empty, extra blankets. A walker folded and leaning. No Evan. The drip from the IV had made a small puddle. I stepped back before I could slip. My ankle twinged where I'd twisted it last month, a reminder that my body kept score even when I pretended it didn't. Where did he go? Janelle said, voice thin now. From the bathroom, Daniel said quietly. He said the voice told him to. My stomach dropped, and then my rational brain slammed the brakes. No, I said, no voices. Not like that, Daniel said quickly. Not, I mean, he said someone on the phone told him he was being discharged. Told him to meet them at the stairwell. The stairwell. My mind snapped back to Marcy's words. Do not enter the stairwell. A misdirection bloomed fully then, terrifying in its shape. Someone luring patients. Overhead misuse. A voice using names. It felt huge and coordinated and out of control. And then a smaller, uglier explanation elbowed in, phishing, but physical, social engineering. Someone exploiting night shift gaps and hospital confusion. No ghosts, just people. Which stairwell? I asked. East, Daniel said. The supply room. That stairwell fed directly to the loading dock. Janelle swore under her breath. That's a fall hazard. Heel, a crash echoed faintly, far away. Metal on concrete. A sound that traveled through vents and walls, distorted but unmistakable. My heart leapt into my throat. That was below us. Attempt 2 collapsed into motion. We go, I said. Security, Janelle began. We go now, I repeated. You call it in as we move. We left the room exactly as it was. Door open. Lights on. People contained as much as we could without restraints. It felt wrong, but Evan mattered more. The east stairwell was 30 feet down the hall. The closer we got, the colder the air felt. Concrete smell. Oil. The kind of space hospitals don't bother to soften. At the stairwell door, a yellow cone lay tipped on its side. Wet floor sign, ignored. My foot slid a little as I stopped short. Careful, Janelle said, breathless. I pushed the door open. The stairwell was lit only by emergency lights, dim, orange-tinged. Another explainable thing. The flicker earlier. A partial outage, isolated. On the landing below us, a man's groan echoed up the concrete shaft. Evan, Janelle shouted. Another groan. Closer now. Pain has a specific sound when it's real. We started down, one hand on the rail, shoes squeaking. On the first landing, we saw him. Evan lay twisted, one leg at an angle that made my stomach clench. Blood spotted the concrete where his IV had torn free. His eyes were open, glassy with pain and confusion. I fell, he said weakly. They said I could go. Who said that? I asked, kneeling, already reaching for gloves, tourniquet, pressure. Muscle memory kicked in. The man, Evan murmured, on the phone, said my wife was waiting. Red rain jacket. Behind us, the stairwell door slammed shut, hard. The emergency lights flickered once and went out. Total darkness swallowed the concrete shaft, thick and immediate. My badge radio crackled to life with static, then nothing. Janelle's breathing went fast and loud in the dark. Claire, she whispered. Above us, something scraped against the door, a lock engaging. And from somewhere higher in the stairwell, a calm male voice, not distorted now, just human, said, "You shouldn't have come down here." There was no way back up. Darkness in a stairwell isn't clean. It isn't like shutting your eyes. It's thick and grainy and full of tiny reflected glows that don't belong to anything. Exit sign bleed from somewhere above. The faint green LED of a smoke detector. The dim pulse of my watch when I moved my wrist. It made the space feel smaller, like the concrete was leaning in. Evan groaned again, and the sound ricocheted up and down the shaft, making it hard to tell where pain ended and echo began. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice into nurse mode. "Evan, look at me." My pen light was in my pocket, but my hands were already on him. One gloved, one bare because I'd rushed and only managed to yank a single glove out of my pocket. I pressed my gloved hand hard against the spot on his forearm where the IV had torn free. Warm blood slicked my fingers anyway. Not spurting, thank God, not arterial. Still enough to matter. Janelle knelt beside me, fumbling. I heard the soft plastic rasp of her glove box tearing open. "Pressure," I said. "Just pressure." "Keep it, I can't see," she breathed. "Use your phone," I told her. "Flashlight." Her phone light snapped on, a harsh white cone that made everything outside it disappear. Evan's face washed out and sweaty. His lips trembled. The angle of his leg turned my stomach. Don't move him, I said quickly, seeing Janelle's hands twitch toward his shoulder. I wasn't, she snapped back, then swallowed. I was. Above us, the scraping against the stairwell door stopped. Then a sound that was worse. The soft metallic click of something being tried, handle, chain, maybe a zip tie. A deliberate person taking their time. Claire, Janelle whispered. What do we do? My badge radio was dead. I lifted it anyway. Nothing but faint hiss, like the building itself was breathing in my ear. Marcy called security, I said, though it sounded thin even to me. I swallowed and pushed my voice lower. They'll come. A calm voice from above said, no, they won't. Not shouting. Not theatrical. Like he was talking to a neighbor over a fence. My whole body reacted, every muscle tightening, but my brain stayed stubbornly practical. Human voice, human plan, human weakness. Who is this? I called up the stairwell, careful to keep my tone firm and not panicked. This is a secure area. You need to identify yourself. He chuckled softly. You're still doing hospital talk. Janelle's phone beam jerked as her hand shook. Claire, don't. We're not trapped, I said, and it was half lie, half instruction to myself. I glanced behind us, downward. The stairwell continued to the next landing, and then down to the loading dock level. If Evan had been lured here, the plan was to get him lower, out of sight, closer to exits. And we followed. My private flaw catching up to me in real time. Handle it yourself first. I need a tourniquet, I muttered, and ripped open the small trauma pouch I carried on nights, gloves, gauze, tape, one cheap tourniquet that always felt like a token until it was. Janelle's phone light flicked over the tipped yellow wet floor sign on the landing above us, lying at an angle like it had been kicked. Overhead flickers. Emergency lights out. It wasn't random. Someone had done this. Evan's eyes fluttered. My wife, he whispered, voice wet. She's Evan, I said sharply, not unkind, just urgent. Listen to me. You're in the hospital. Your wife is not in the stairwell. You fell. We're helping you. Stay with me. His mouth opened like he wanted to argue, then his face crumpled with pain. A sound came out of him, small, humiliating. The sound people make when their body betrays them in public. Janelle's jaw clenched. I could see her guilt trying to turn into anger to protect itself. Above us, footsteps began. Slow, measured. One step, pause, another step, not running down to attack, coming down like he owned the space. I reached into my pocket with my bare hand and pulled out my pen light, clicked it on. Tiny beam, weak compared to the phone, but it gave me control of a direction. We go down, I said to Janelle, my voice low. We can't go up. We go down to the loading dock door. There's a crash bar. We get through. We scream. We find people. And Evan, she hissed. We drag him, I said. Not lift. Drag. It's going to hurt him. It's that or we stay here. Evan moaned like he heard us and understood enough to be scared. A shadow moved in the upper darkness, just the suggestion of a person entering the edge of Janelle's phone light. Stop, Janelle shouted. Her voice echoed raw. Stop right there. The man didn't stop. He stepped into the cone of light. He was tall, maybe 40-something, white, with close-cropped hair and a face that would have looked normal at a grocery store. Dark hoodie, cargo pants, a lanyard around his neck with a badge flipped backward. He held something in his right hand. For half a second, my brain screamed gun. Then the light steadied and I saw it, a cordless phone handset. The kind environmental services used sometimes, old and beige, stolen from a desk. Misdirection. Terror turned into something uglier because it meant he wasn't here to shoot us. He was here to talk us into compliance. "Claire Hart," he said, smiling like it was a joke between us. "You should have answered the overhead when I asked nicely." My stomach dropped. That was the payoff. The note. "Answer the overhead." "You're the caller," I said, keeping my voice even. "I'm the one who can make this easy," he replied. He nodded toward Evan. "You're bleeding your patient out. That's going to be a report. That's going to be your license. You think they'll believe you?" Two nurses wandering into a dark stairwell with a post-op looked sloppy. Janelle's phone shook harder. "What do you want?" He lifted the handset slightly. "I want you to give me the patient." He walks out. "Quiet, you go back upstairs. No one gets hurt." "He can't walk," I said. The man's eyes flicked to Evan's leg, then back. "Then you help him." Evan's hand clawed weakly at my sleeve. "Claire," he whispered, "please." The man took one more step down. Close enough now that I could smell him, stale cigarettes and cold air, not hospital. "Back up," I said, and my voice cracked on the last word. I hated that it betrayed me. He smiled again, smaller. "Or what? I didn't have a weapon. We didn't have a radio. We had a phone beam and a pen light and a patient bleeding. And one more seated detail, the puddle of saline, the drip we'd stepped around, the wet floor sign, water on concrete, slippery." I leaned closer to Evan like I was adjusting my pressure bandage. My bare fingers found the tourniquet strap. I tightened it one notch. Evan cried out, sharp, involuntary. The man flinched, just slightly, as if pain noises bothered him. "Janelle," I said softly, not looking at her, "turn your phone light off, now." "What?" she breathed. "Do it." She hesitated one heartbeat, then clicked it off. The stairwell went almost fully black, and in that black I snapped my pen light straight into the man's eyes. It wasn't a superhero move. It was a cheap, desperate thing. But people have reflexes. He jerked his head back, hand rising. I said, and grabbed Evan under the shoulders. Janelle understood finally. She hooked her arms under Evan's armpits. We dragged. Evan screamed. It was awful. It had to be. The man cursed and lunged down the steps, blinded and angry. His foot hit the wet patch condensation saline, whatever had been tracked in, and slid. His body went sideways. He slammed into the rail hard enough that the metal rang. The handset clattered down the concrete steps, bouncing and cracking with each impact. He grabbed for the rail, fingers scrabbling, and for a second it looked like he'd catch himself. Then his momentum took him. He fell down toward us in a tangle, shoulder first, then hip, then elbow, hitting each step with a sickening rhythm. He didn't fly. He just lost the argument with gravity. He hit the landing 3 steps above Evan's feet and lay there, stunned, wheezing. Janelle's breath came out in a sob. Oh my God. I didn't look away. I didn't allow it. Keep moving, I said, voice low and hard. Keep moving. The man groaned and tried to push up. His knee slipped again on wet concrete. Help, he rasped, and it almost sounded real. Almost. Evan was whimpering, shocky now, his head lolling. The tourniquet had slowed the bleeding, but his face had gone pale in the thin light from below, an emergency exit sign glowing faintly at the next level down. We reached the next flight. The loading dock door was at the bottom, and I could see the thin seam of light under it, real light, industrial, the world still existing on the other side. But the door wasn't fully closed. It was propped open a crack. Something, maybe a wedge, maybe a piece of folded cardboard, kept it from latching. A path, a plan. We dragged Evan the last steps, my shoulders burning, my hands numb. My bare hand was slick with blood and sweat. Janelle hit the crash bar with her hip, or swung outward, and cold air slapped our faces. The loading dock smelled like diesel and wet pavement. A forklift sat silent. A security camera blinked red in the corner, alive. "Help," Janelle screamed, voice tearing. "We need help." Footsteps pounded from the far side of the dock, reel running now. A voice shouted, "Hey, who's there?" A man in a security uniform appeared, flashlight beams sweeping Officer Malik Carter, 31, male, eyes widening as he took in Evan, the blood, our faces. "Call 911, I gasped. "Now," patient fell. "We've got someone in the stairwell." Malik's expression changed instantly from confusion to action. He yanked his radio up. "Dispatch, I need backup at East Loading Dock now. Medical emergency and possible intruder. Lock down East stairwell." Behind us, from inside the stairwell, the fallen man's groan echoed faintly. Then another sound. A door above us clanged open, and a voice, Daniel's voice, unmistakable, shouted from somewhere higher, "He's not alone." My stomach sank, even as relief washed in from the sight of Malik and the open dock. We made it out, but the building still had corners, and we had only moved the danger, not erased it. Evan lay on the dock floor, shivering, his eyes rolling back, and I pressed my hands to him and did what nurses do when the world narrows to one job: keep someone alive long enough for the next handoff. The cost was already there: Evan's leg, my torn glove, Janelle's shaking hands, and the knowledge that the overhead had said my name because a human being had taken the time to learn it. Not a ghost, something worse in its own way. They took Evan away under brighter lights. That's how it always goes: chaos funneled into order by gurney rails and clipped voices. Paramedics arrived with practiced calm, boots squeaking on the loading dock's painted lines. Someone handed me a blanket that wasn't for me. Someone else asked for vitals I'd already been tracking in my head. Evan was conscious when they lifted him. Pale, shaking, jaw clenched against pain that no amount of reassurance could erase. When they strapped his leg, he cried out and then apologized for it, a reflex that made my throat tight. "You didn't do anything wrong," I told him, leaning close so he could hear me over the dock noise. Diesel, radio chatter, the distant thump of a door closing somewhere inside the hospital. "You're going to surgery. We'll tell them everything." He looked at me like he was trying to memorize my face. "I thought she was waiting," he said, small and embarrassed. The man sounded so sure. "I know," I said, "I know." They rolled him away, and the dock felt suddenly too big. Janelle sat on the concrete with her back against a pillar, arms wrapped around herself. She stared at her hands like she didn't recognize them. Her phone lay face down beside her, flashlight still on, a white oval on the ground. I crouched in front of her. "Hey," she blinked slowly. "I thought," she stopped, swallowed. "I thought I killed him when we dragged him." "You didn't," I said, and meant it. "You kept him alive." She nodded, but it was the kind of nod you give facts you don't yet believe. Officer Malik stood a few feet away, talking into his radio, voice low and efficient. He caught my eye and raised 2 fingers 1 minute. The security camera in the corner kept blinking red, indifferent. Inside, the stairwell door clanged again as more officers went in. I didn't turn to look. I didn't want the image of that man, his careful smile, the beige handset, to settle somewhere permanent. The police arrived after the paramedics left. Portland uniforms, damp from the night air, notebooks already open. They asked us to repeat things in order, which is harder than it sounds when your body is still buzzing and your ankle throbs, and you keep replaying the moment you chose to go down instead of up. I told it straight. The monitor glitch, the overhead, the call, the stairwell. I left out nothing and tried not to add meaning where there wasn't proof. Janelle did the same, her voice steady until it wasn't, then steady again. She corrected herself once, cheeks flushing. The officer nodded like that was normal. They caught the man in the stairwell on the second landing up, wedged awkwardly, wrist swelling fast. He tried to crawl. He hadn't made it far. The cordless handset lay in pieces on a step below him, beige plastic cracked like a dropped mug. Daniel Weiss was found in the bathroom of room 412, hands raised, shaking so badly his voice wobbled. He told a story about his cousin friend, then cousin about debt and desperation, and a plan that was supposed to be clean. He hadn't expected the nurses to come down. He hadn't expected the lights to go out. He hadn't expected anything to hurt. They put him in a blanket too. By dawn, the floor smelled like bleach again. The kind of clean that tries to erase footprints. I filed an incident report that ran long and still felt incomplete. It took the overhead system offline for review. Biomed checked the hallway monitors and found a network hiccup packet loss at the wrong second. A name field overwritten by a timestamp from a test log. Explainable. Documented. Closed. Security taped the stairwell door with a strip of red plastic that read "Do not use" and posted a guard until maintenance could fix the lighting and the latch. They took the wet floor sign away. Marcy brought me a coffee I didn't ask for and set it down too hard. "You did what you could," she said, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "You hear me? Don't you dare start that thing where you take it home." I smiled. It probably looked convincing. Evan came out of surgery mid-morning. A longer repair, more hardware, a longer road. The surgeon said it would have been worse if he'd stayed down there longer. That sentence landed with weight. When my shift ended, the sun was already up, pale and ordinary. Cars moved through the parking garage. Someone laughed near the elevators. The hospital resumed its shape as a place where things happen and then stop happening. I walked Janelle to her car. She moved like she'd aged a year overnight. "Do you want me to come over?" I asked. "I can make eggs or just sit." She shook her head, then hesitated. "Can I text you later, anytime?" She hugged me without asking, quick and tight, then pulled away like she'd startled herself. "I'm glad you were there," she said, and got into her car. At home, I slept in fragments. Stairwells and phones and the sound of a door locking stitched themselves into half-dreams. When I woke, it took a moment to remember where I was. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. My chest tightened before my brain caught up. "This is Claire Hart," the message read from St. Bridget's. "I'm Evan Martin's partner." I exhaled. "Thank you," she wrote. "He told me what happened. He says you kept talking to him when he was scared." That mattered. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I typed back something simple and true. That night, back on shift, the overhead worked the way it always had. Codes, requests, lost and found. The voice belonged to the operator, cheerful and flat and familiar. Still, when it clicked on, I felt my shoulders lift without my permission. Room 412 had a new patient. Different name, different story. The call light cord was looped just right. As I left the room, the hallway monitor blinked just once. A harmless refresh. The name stayed put. I stood there longer than necessary, coffee cooling in my hand. listening to the building breathe. Ordinary sounds layered over something thinner. Explainable, mostly. And when the overhead clicked again down the hall, I didn't answer it. And that's the end of today's chilling tale. If you enjoyed this story and want more nights full of suspense, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and turn on the bell so you never miss a scare. I've got plenty more stories waiting for you, so stick around and check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe and don't look behind you. Hey everyone, this is Mia Horror Stories, and the title of today's horror story is Someone Airdropped Me a Photo of Myself Sleeping. For your comfort, the screen will stay black throughout the video, so you can relax without strain and just focus on the story. Make sure you stick around until the end. Sometimes the last few moments are the ones that stay with you the longest. The first thing that felt wrong was how normal everything else looked. I was wedged into a molded plastic chair at gate B12 with my backpack between my ankles and a paper cup of coffee, slowly turning lukewarm in my hands. Across from me, a kid in a puffy jacket dragged the wheels of his suitcase over the same 2 floor tiles again and again, clack, clack, like he was testing whether the universe would finally crack open and give him something different. Behind me, a floor buffer whined in a steady loop, the kind of sound that burrows into your skull without you noticing. An overhead announcement hiccuped through the speaker system, half swallowed by the terminal's cavernous acoustics. It smelled like cinnamon pretzels and jet fuel, and that weird sterile cleaner note you only get in airports. My phone buzzed on my thigh. I glanced down, expecting my boarding group. Instead, airdrop, IMG 4839 from B12 iPhone. I blinked like that would change what I was seeing. Airdrop requests happen sometimes in crowded places, people sharing photos from a bachelor party, or a bored teenager trying to send memes to strangers. Annoying, but explainable. Still, the file name stopped me. I wasn't sure why. A number string, a JPEG, no message, just a file. The preview didn't show, just the generic thumbnail. I could either decline or accept. I tilted my screen away from the aisle, more out of instinct than logic. My thumb hovered. The floor buffer's whine rose and fell as it passed behind me, and somewhere a man laughed too loudly at something on his laptop. I hit decline. A second later, another buzz. Airdrop, IMG 4840 from B12 iPhone OK. I sat up straighter and looked around like the culprit would be obvious. Someone grinning at me, someone making eye contact and waiting for my reaction. The people nearest me were performing their usual airport rituals, pretending to work, pretending to sleep, pretending not to be the kind of person who gets stuck in an airport on a Tuesday night. My own reflection caught in the black glass of the boarded-up Hudson News storefront. Tired eyes, stubble that didn't commit to being a beard. A hoodie-eyed slept in the night before. I'm not a paranoid person, not in the fun way where you think every coincidence is a message meant for you. But I do have this private habit of rehearsing worst-case scenarios when my brain doesn't have anything useful to do. It's not even dramatic stuff. It's mundane disaster. Lost wallet, canceled flight, someone stealing my laptop because I took my eyes off it for 30 seconds. I'm good at seeing the weak points in my own day and then poking them until they bruise. That's the flaw. if you want to call it that. I can't always leave things alone. The phone buzzed again before I could decide what to do about the second request. AirDrop. Sleeping. JPG from B12 iPhone. That one wasn't default. That one felt chosen. I stood slow, like I'd dropped something and didn't want to spook anyone. My backpack strap creaked as I pulled it over my shoulder. I scanned the seats in a wider circle, 2 rows, 3 rows, the cluster by the charging station. Nothing. No one looking at me. No one even looking up. I started walking toward the windows, because at least there I could see the whole gate area reflected behind me. The carpet muffled my steps. My coffee sloshed against the lid. The request stayed on my screen, waiting. At the windows, the tarmac was a gray-black expanse dotted with orange cones and slow-moving vehicles with blinking lights. A plane sat parked like a sleeping animal, its belly lit from beneath. My reflection floated over the glass, and behind it, the gate chairs and bodies arranged in little islands. Another buzz. AirDrop. IMG 4841 from B12 iPhone. I exhaled through my nose. It came out like a laugh I didn't mean. "Hey," a voice said, close enough that I felt it in my shoulder before I turned. A woman had stepped up beside me, not right beside, but close in that polite airport way where you can talk without leaning. She wore a navy coat and had a lanyard tucked into her pocket like she'd yanked it off after work. She held her phone in one hand, and her other hand was wrapped around a bottle of water with the label peeled halfway off. "You look like you just got texted something awful," she said, not unkindly. I hesitated, then angled my screen a few degrees so she could see the repeated AirDrop banner stack. Her eyebrows lifted. "Oh, that. Yeah," I said. "You ever get that?" "Sometimes," she said. "We'll send stuff. Usually dumb." "This doesn't feel dumb," I said, and immediately wished I hadn't phrased it that way. She studied my face, then the gate behind us. "Who does it say it's from?" "B12 iPhone," I said, and then just now, sleeping JPG. She made a soft sound, more thoughtful than alarmed. "That's specific." "I declined the first one," I said. "They keep sending." "Turn AirDrop off," she suggested, like it was obvious. "Yeah," I said, because yes, that was obvious. And also because I hadn't done it yet, which was the point. If I turned it off, whatever this was would just be gone. A weird little blip in the day I'd never explain. My brain didn't like that. My brain wanted to open the box, even if it held something unpleasant. I didn't say any of that. I just swallowed and stared at the dark glass as another request popped up, the little spinning blue circle hunting for my response. "My name's Mara," she said, as if introducing herself would stabilize the situation. "Mara Larkin." I shifted my coffee to my other hand. "Evan," I said, "Evan Price." She glanced at my boarding pass peeking out of my phone case. "You on the Boston flight?" "Yeah," I said, delayed, mechanical. "Same," she said. "Of course." Mara's phone chimed softly, not an AirDrop, something else, maybe a calendar reminder. She ignored it. "Do you think it's someone you know?" "I don't know anyone here," I said, then paused. "I mean, no. Not that I'm aware of." That sounded less convincing than I intended, and Mara picked up on it. She didn't push, though. She just watched the gate area with the same quiet focus you see in people who commute a lot. Practiced observation without drama. A tall guy in a fleece vest walked by, dragging a rolling bag with one sticky wheel. A couple argued in whispers over a charging cord. Someone's FaceTime call leaked tinny laughter. Life went on. Mara nodded toward the chairs. If it's coming from B12 iPhone, they're probably in the seating zone. AirDrop range isn't huge. I know, I said, and the admission came with a spike of irritation at myself. I worked in IT security, nothing glamorous, mostly compliance and audits. I lectured colleagues about basic hygiene. Yet here I was, letting curiosity lead me around by the nose like a dog. Mara took a sip from her water bottle. You want to find out who it is? I looked at her. Do you? She gave me a small shrug. I don't love the idea of someone messing with people in public, and I've got time. And honestly, I'm nosy. That made me smile, despite myself. The phone buzzed again, like it was impatient with our conversation. AirDrop. Evan asleep from B12 iPhone. Mara saw my expression shift. Okay, she said, tone changing. That's your name. My stomach did something small and unhelpful. Not a cinematic lurch, just a tightening, like my hoodie drawstrings had been pulled. I didn't tell you my last name, I said automatically, then realized that wasn't the point. Mara's face stayed composed, but her posture changed, weight slightly forward, attention sharpened. How would they know your name? Boarding pass, I said, too fast. Maybe they saw it. I was holding my phone. Or, I gestured vaguely, as if there were obvious ways strangers learned each other's names in airports. Mara's eyes flicked to the gate podium. There's also the display screens, she said. Sometimes they show lists. They don't show names, I said, and I knew they didn't because I'd checked earlier like I was looking for proof that the universe had assigned me a seat. My phone screen held the request like a hand held out in the dark. Mara lowered her voice. What if you accept it? Just see what it is. And if it's something gross, I whispered back. Then you delete it, she said, and you turn AirDrop off, or you show a gate agent. I stared at the accept button until my eyes started to blur around it. The rational thing was to shut it down, turn AirDrop to contacts only or off, and go back to being a tired guy with bad coffee waiting for a delayed flight. But the file names were too pointed, and if someone was doing this on purpose, there was a chance it wasn't random. Mara shifted closer to the window, angling so she could still see the gate. If you accept, she said, do it with me here. Don't do it alone in the bathroom or something. A laugh tried to escape me and failed halfway. That's good advice. She held up her phone. I can record your screen if you want, in case it disappears, or in case you need to show someone. My hands felt slightly damp around the coffee cup. The floor buffer had moved on, replaced by the rhythmic squeak of someone's sneakers on carpet. The announcer crackled again, apologizing for inconvenience in that meaningless way they always do. Mara met my eyes. Your call, Evan. And that was it, an actual choice, right there in the most ordinary place imaginable. Accept and look, or shut it down and let the weirdness evaporate. My thumb hovered over accept, and the gate behind us kept breathing, busy and indifferent, as if nothing in the world had changed at all. I did tap accept right away. I did the thing I always do when my brain senses danger. I tried to build a neat little box around it. Okay, I said, forcing my voice into that calm, professional tone I used at work when someone forwarded me a phishing email with 12 exclamation points. If I accept, it could be nothing. Could be a picture of anything. Or it could be something meant to freak me out. Or it could be malware. Mara watched me. AirDrop files can carry, what, a malicious profile. In theory, I said. It's not common. But I stopped. The word, but was doing too much. She angled her phone like she was ready to hit record. Then don't open it. Just accept so we can see the thumbnail in photos. Or accept and airplane mode immediately. I don't know. You're the security guy. The way she said it, half teasing, half trusting, made my chest tighten. Because yes, I was the security guy. I was supposed to be the person who didn't get surprised by basic stuff. I dragged down Control Center and switched my airdrop to receiving off. Quests disappeared instantly, like a hand yanking a thread out of fabric. For a second, I felt relief. Then the phone buzzed with a normal notification sound. A text, unknown number, no contact photo. If you turn it off, you won't see the next one. No emoji, no punctuation beyond the apostrophe. Mara's mouth went slightly open. That came through as a text. I stared at the screen. My fingers went cold in a practical way, like when you touch a metal railing in winter. Yeah, that's not random, she said. I tried to rationalize it fast. Could be coincidence. Someone texting the wrong number. Mara gave me a look that wasn't dramatic, just flat. Evan, I exhaled, and the breath shook on the way out. Okay, not coincidence. Airport noise kept going. The clack of the kids' suitcase wheels, a zipper, a cough, someone's earbuds hissing. The normalcy around us made the text feel louder, like it was being shouted in a library. Mara moved a half step closer, lowering her voice. Do you want to tell someone, gate agent? And say what? I whispered. Someone airdropped me a file and then texted me. They'll tell me to block the number, and I don't know. Stop accepting things from strangers. She didn't argue. She understood that the real problem wasn't whether an airport employee would care. The real problem was the message had hopped from one channel to another. Airdrop was proximity. Texting meant the sender had my number. My phone vibrated again. Another text from the same unknown number. You're not in Boston yet. Don't get on. I felt Mara watching me read. Her face tightened. What does that mean? It means they want me to not board, I said, and it came out like a question. Mara's eyes flicked toward the gate podium where two agents were typing at keyboards, their faces washed in screen light. Maybe it's some scam. Like, they want you to miss your flight. Why? I said. Do they get? She didn't answer because neither of us had a clean, safe explanation. My phone buzzed again. Look up. Blue backpack. Yellow tag. I didn't move at first. My body went stubborn and heavy, like if I stayed still, the world would have to stay still with me. My brain tried to turn it into a game. Spot the blue backpack, haha. Someone's messing with you. But the text had that clipped certainty of someone watching in real time. Mara spoke softly, like you would to a dog that might bolt. Don't whip your head around, just scan. I did, slow, casual, like I was stretching my neck. 3 rows left, near the charging station. A blue backpack sat under a chair. Bright yellow luggage tag looped around the handle. There was a phone cable snaking out of it into the wall. Next to it, a man in a gray hoodie sat with his knees wide and his eyes on his lap. Could be his bag. Could be someone else. In airports, bags and bodies blur into temporary ownership. My next text arrived before I could decide whether to look away. That's not your bag, but it's on your flight. I swallowed. My throat felt dry in that particular way you get after a long day, when your mouth tastes faintly of coffee and recycled air. Mara's voice was barely audible. Is your name on the tag? I leaned my head slightly, trying to read it without looking obvious. The yellow tag was turned inward, not readable from here. My heart wasn't hammering. Not yet. It was doing something worse. Steady acceleration, like a car picking up speed, and you don't realize how fast you're going until you look down. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, so someone wants me to believe there's a bag situation." Mara's jaw worked. "Either they're warning you about something or they're setting you up." My private flaw, my inability to let things go, clicked into place like it had been waiting. Because now there was a tangible object, a specific point in space. Not just a weird photo file. A blue backpack with a yellow tag. Something I could walk toward and verify. And the time-sensitive part arrived like the universe had been waiting for the right cue. The overhead speaker crackled. "Attention passengers on flight 1827 to Boston. We are now boarding Group C." A line formed fast, people popping up like springs. The gate area shifted. Chairs scraped. Rolling bags thumped over seams in the carpet. Mara looked from the bag to the forming line to me. "If that bag is a problem, and it's going on the plane, that's—" "I know," I said, cutting her off. The word problem felt too small for what my brain was now painting. I forced myself to think procedurally. "We should tell the gate agent." Mara nodded immediately. Yes, we started toward the podium, but the crowd thickened, funneling into the boarding lane. A family with 4 carry-ons drifted in front of us. Someone stepped sideways to take a call, blocking the path. The normal inconveniences of travel suddenly felt like deliberate obstacles. Another text buzzed. "Don't tell them. He'll move it. 3 minutes." Mara heard the vibration, saw my face. "What?" I held the phone toward her, my thumb covering the number like that mattered. She read it and made a sharp exhale. "I don't know," I said. But if you don't tell them, you're taking advice from the person doing this," she said. "And if we do tell them and it's a prank, we look insane," I said, hating how much that mattered to me. "And if it's not a prank, then we look insane for a different reason," she said, and her tone hardened. "Evan, people are boarding." She was right. Group C was moving. The gray hoodie man near the blue backpack stood, stretching his shoulders like he'd been waiting for the call. He unplugged the cable from the wall with an absent tug. The blue backpack shifted as he grabbed it by the strap. My lungs tightened. World narrowed to that strap in his hand. Mara grabbed my sleeve. "We need to do something." I should have walked straight to the gate agent and said, "I'm getting texts about a bag. Let the professionals handle it." That was the correct move, the adult move, the move I would tell someone else to make. But the fear that had always lived quietly in the back of my mind, making a public mistake, being the guy who overreacts, the guy everyone watches and whispers about, rose up and put a hand on my shoulder. And right behind it came the other fear, the one that mattered more, the idea of sitting on a plane and realizing too late that I'd ignored a warning because I didn't want to look foolish. The gray hoodie man started walking toward the boarding lane, blue backpack swinging lightly, yellow tag flashing with each step. Mara's grip on my sleeve tightened. "Evan." "I know," I said. A final text buzzed, and my stomach sank before I even read it, like my body recognized the shape of bad news. "If you let him board, you're in the photo next." Mara's eyes flicked from the screen to the man with the bag, then back to me. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," I said, and for the first time my voice cracked. The man merged into the line. He was 10 feet from the scanner, then 8, then 6. The gate agent smiled at someone, oblivious, hand out for the next boarding pass. Mara leaned in, urgent. "Choice. Now. Tell the agent and risk tipping off whoever was watching, or follow the man, keep quiet, and try to see where he takes the bag." My flaw did what it always did. It picked the option that promised answers. "Come on," I said, and pulled Mara with me, not toward the podium, but toward the line, slipping into the flow of boarding passengers like we belonged there. Mara's eyes widened. "Evan, I'm not letting that bag out of my sight," I whispered. We moved forward in the crowd, close enough now that I could smell the man's detergent, cheap, floral, and the faint sour note of sweat trapped under synthetic fabric. He didn't look back. He didn't hurry. He just boarded, as if nothing in the world had changed. And then the gate agent scanned his pass and waved him through the jet bridge. The crowd surged. The line advanced. Mara's voice was tight. "We're doing this," I nodded once, unable to speak. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't look. Not yet. We stepped up to the scanner. The gate agent reached for my boarding pass, and the overhead lights above gate B12 flickered once, twice, before the terminal speaker popped with a sharp, ugly burst of static, like something shorting out. Every head in the gate area turned for half a second, and in that half second, the gray hoodie man and the blue backpack disappeared down the jet bridge. The jet bridge swallowed us in a warm, recycled breath that smelled faintly of rubber mats and old coffee. We moved with the line, shoes thudding on the slightly springy floor, the walls narrowing our vision to a gray tube lit by buzzing fluorescent strips. The gray hoodie man was still ahead of us, maybe 15 people up, his blue backpack slung over one shoulder, the yellow tag flashing like a tiny warning flag every time he shifted. Mara leaned close to my ear. "We're boxed in now." "I know," I said, and my voice sounded wrong to me, too thin, stretched. That was the first failed attempt, though I didn't realize it yet, just following. Acting like proximity alone counted as control. The line stalled halfway down the jet bridge. Someone up ahead was struggling to fit a carry on into the overhead bin before even stepping onto the plane, blocking the flow. People sighed. A man behind us muttered something under his breath. The gray hoodie man stopped moving. I used the pause to do what I should have done earlier. I pulled my phone out and typed 911 without hitting call, just to see how it felt. My thumb hovered, useless. If I called now, what would I even say? "I'm on a jet bridge and someone texted me about a backpack," Mara noticed. "If you're going to do it," she whispered, "do it." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Too many eyes. Wait. My pulse jumped. I scanned the people around us, families, business travelers, a woman rocking a baby against her shoulder. No one was looking at me. That somehow made it worse. Whoever was texting wasn't just nearby, they were watching behavior, reading the room. The line lurched forward again. We stepped onto the aircraft. The cabin was dimmer than the terminal, overhead lights set to that soft, artificial evening meant to trick your body into calm. The aisle felt narrow after the jet bridge, shoulders brushing, elbows bumping as people jockeyed for bin space. Row numbers glowed faintly above the seats. 18, 19, 20. The gray hoodie man turned left into the aisle, then stopped at row 22. He lifted the blue backpack, opened an overhead bin, and slid it inside with practiced ease. No fumbling, no hesitation. My stomach tightened. The bag was on. Mara whispered, "That's it." Attempt 2 formed itself in my head. Verify the bag. If I could see the tag, read a name, maybe this would all collapse into embarrassment and relief. I stepped forward as if I needed to stow my own bag and reached up, pretending to adjust my backpack strap. I craned my neck toward the overhead bin. The yellow tag swung free now, readable. Not a name, just a phone number. Handwritten, thick black marker, no area code. Mara saw it too. Her eyes widened just slightly. That's not normal. No, I said, it's not. The gray hoodie man slid into his seat by the window, pulled out his phone, and put in earbuds. He didn't look back. He didn't watch us. That again felt worse than if he had. People kept boarding. The aisle filled behind us. A flight attendant gestured politely. Sir, if you could keep moving. We had to retreat a step, pressed back into the flow. Attempt 2 inspection had given us information, but no leverage. Mara's hand brushed mine. You're shaking. I know, I said. My forearms felt tight, like I'd been clenching them without realizing. We reached our row 24, aisle and middle, and slid in. As soon as I sat, the offer of stillness backfired. My leg bounced. My shoulders ached from tension. Another buzz. Good, you saw it. I stared at the message until the letters blurred. Mara angled her body toward me, shielding the screen. He knows what you're doing, she said quietly. Or someone does. The doors hadn't closed yet. A flight attendant stood near the front, making an announcement about overhead space. The engines were still silent. Okay, Mara whispered. Third option. We get up, tell a flight attendant quietly. Security protocol. They can pause boarding. And if the texter is watching, I said, if that tips them off. Evan, she said, and there was steel in it now. We are already tipped off. She was right. And still, my fear of escalation, the messy, public kind, wrapped around my ribs. I stood anyway. My knees complained immediately, stiff from the sudden movement. The aisle was still crowded, but thinning. I stepped toward the rear galley where a flight attendant was arranging cups. Excuse me, I said, keeping my voice low. I need to report something odd. She looked up, polite smile ready. Of course, sir. I opened my mouth and my phone buzzed again. If you say it out loud, the bag isn't the problem anymore. I froze. The attendant's smile wavered. Sir, Mara stepped up beside me. A loud bang echoed from the front of the plane. Several people yelped. A baby started crying. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. The flight attendant flinched, then relaxed almost immediately. Overhead bin, she said, already moving forward. Someone slammed it. The tension didn't drain from me, though. The timing was too clean, too perfect misdirection. That's what it was. Just physics and impatience. But my body didn't care. My palms were slick. My throat burned. The attendant glanced back. What was it you needed, sir? I swallowed. This was the point. Say it now or lose the nerve. There's a bag in the overhead, I said. Row 22. Blue backpack with a yellow tag. I've been receiving messages about it. Her expression shifted not to alarm, but to something procedural. Messages how? Texts. Airdrop earlier, I note, aware of how insane it sounded. She nodded slowly. Okay, let's have you take your seat for a moment. My stomach dropped. No, we're about to close the door, she said, still calm. I'll notify the lead, but you need to be seated. That was attempt 3, authority. And it failed, not because she didn't believe me, but because procedure moved slower than threat. We slid back into our seats. The aisle cleared. The door thumped shut with a finality that echoed in my bones. The safety demo lights flicked on. Mara leaned in, her voice barely more than breath. We're locked in now. I nodded, jaw tight. The plane pushed back from the gate. The floor vibrated under my feet. Outside, through the tiny oval window, the terminal began to slide away. My phone buzzed one more time. Too late to stop it. Not too late to fix it. What does that even mean? Mara whispered. I didn't answer. My attention had snagged on something else. The gray hoodie man was standing. He stepped into the aisle, blue backpack now slung in front of him, clutched to his chest. A flight attendant near the front looked up sharply. "Sir, please take your seat," she said. He didn't respond. He just stood there, breathing fast enough that I could see his shoulders rise and fall from rows back. People started murmuring. Someone laughed nervously. This was it, my brain insisted. The nightmare scenario finally breaking cover. Then the man lurched sideways and dropped into the aisle seat across from us, head snapping forward. The backpack hit the floor with a dull thud. The murmurs rose into alarm. "He fainted," someone said. A flight attendant rushed over. Sir, can you hear me?" Another attendant appeared with a medical kit. "Does anyone have medical training?" The explanation was immediate and crushing in its ordinariness. A diabetic episode, a panic attack, dehydration, something human and fragile, misdirection again. My heart had sprinted ahead of reality, but the backpack was on the floor now, close enough that I could see the zipper wasn't fully closed. Mara's hand gripped my forearm. "Evan, don't." Inside the bag, visible through the gap, was a phone. Not a bomb, not wires, just a phone, screen lit. On the screen, a photo, me, curled on my side in my own bed. Eyes closed, taken from above. The same bedding, the same hoodie, sleeping. The plane started to roll, and whatever line I thought existed between watching and being watched vanished completely. The aisle filled fast. Flight attendants knelt around the gray hoodie man, voices low and efficient. Someone pressed the call button. Someone else stood half up, craning to see, then sat back down when an attendant shot them a look. I couldn't stop staring at the phone in the open backpack. The screen dimmed, then lit again, as if nudged awake. My own face stared back at me from my own bed, mouth slightly open, hair mashed to one side. The angle was wrong, too high, too close to the wall. Not a doorway shot, not across the room, from above. Mara followed my gaze. Her breath hitched, quick and involuntary. "Evan, I know," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere behind me. The gray hoodie man groaned. His eyes fluttered open. He looked confused, panicked, like a person surfacing from underwater. "Sir," an attendant said gently, "you fainted. Try not to move." His eyes slid to the backpack on the floor. His hand twitched toward it. I moved before I finished deciding to. I stepped into the aisle, bent, and grabbed the bag by the strap. "Sir," an attendant barked. The man's hand clamped around my wrist. His grip was weak but desperate. "Don't," he croaked. "I don't, please." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't look. Mara was on her feet now too, her shoulder braced against the seat in front of us. "Evan," she said, urgent. "What are you doing?" "Finding out," I said. The plane lurched slightly as the tug connected. The engines whined louder. We were moving. I yanked my wrist free. The man's fingers slipped, sweaty and trembling. He slumped back into the seat, breathing hard. An attendant reached for the bag. "Sir, put that down." "I need 1 second," I said, louder than I meant to. Heads turned, murmurs rose. I dropped into the empty aisle seat across from mine and pulled the zipper the rest of the way open. Inside, clothes folded tight, cheap, new, a charger brick, a power bank, and the phone. I picked it up. Locked screen, no notifications, just the photo. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, hands shaking now. "You have it, good." I typed back before I could stop myself. "Who are you?" 3 dots appeared immediately. then stopped, then started again. The flight attendant put a hand on my shoulder. "Sir, I need you to give me the bag." "Please," I said, not to her, to the phone, to whoever was behind it. "Please." The dots vanished. A new message came through. "Check the contact list." I hesitated, then swiped the screen. No passcode. The phone opened. My stomach dropped. The contacts list wasn't long. No names like mom or work. Just addresses, street names, apartment numbers. One was mine, below it dozens more. Mara leaned in, reading over my shoulder. Her face went pale. "These are homes. Targets," I said. The gray hoodie man let out a broken sound, half sob, half laugh. "I told him I couldn't," he gasped. "I told him I didn't want to be part of it." "Who?" I snapped, spinning toward him. He squeezed his eyes shut. "I don't know his name. He pays. He gives instructions. I just deliver." "Deliver what?" Mara demanded. The man shook his head, tears leaking out now. "Phones. I don't know what's on them, I swear." My phone buzzed again, sharp and insistent. "If you give it to them, the list doesn't disappear." I felt boxed in on all sides. The attendants, the passengers, the accelerating plane, the reality that this wasn't just about me anymore. "What do you want?" I typed. My thumbs felt numb. A pause. Long enough that the cabin noise swelled back in engine pitch. A baby crying, someone whispering a prayer. Then, "Proof you won't run." Mara grabbed my arm. "Evan, don't," I swallowed. My heart felt too big for my chest. "What kind of proof?" The response came instantly. "Unlock your phone." "Open photos." I froze. Mara stared at me. "No, absolutely not." I knew what he meant. If he could see my phone, see what I was doing, then he was closer than the plane, closer than the airport. "I can't," I typed. 3 dots. Then you're not the right person." My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a text. It was an airdrop request. From seat 24A, my seat. Mara sucked in a breath. "He's here." Every muscle in my body went tight. I scanned the cabin, suddenly aware of how many people were within 10 feet of me. A man 2 rows up, adjusting his glasses. A woman across the aisle, pretending not to stare. The gray hoodie man slumped and shaking. "Decline it," Mara whispered. "Evan, decline it." But I already knew what it was. I could feel it, like a weight behind my eyes. I accepted. The photo opened automatically. It was me, standing in the aisle, right now, taken from behind. The angle was low, disguised, cropped tight enough that it could have been anyone with a phone held at chest height. My vision tunneled. Mara's nails dug into my arm. "Don't turn around," she said fiercely. "Don't." A man behind us stood abruptly. "Hey," he said, voice sharp. "What's going on up there?" The flight attendant raised her voice. "Sir, please remain seated." My phone buzzed again. "Say it out loud." My mouth was dry. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out like the courier had. "Say what?" I whispered. "That you see me." The plane picked up speed. The runway lights streaked past the windows. This was it. The point of no return had already passed. I just hadn't felt it until now. I stood. The cabin erupted. "Sir, sit down." Mara stood with me, one hand still gripping my sleeve like an anchor. "I see you," I said, my voice shaking, but loud enough to carry. "I see you." Silence snapped into place, brittle and electric. Then a man 3 rows back laughed. Too loud, wrong. "You don't see anything," he said, standing slowly. He was middle-aged, clean-cut, the kind of face that vanished the moment you looked away. "Sit down before you get someone hurt." My phone buzzed. Wrong one. The laughing man's smile faltered. Across the aisle, a woman lowered her phone too slowly. Her face was flushed, eyes bright with something like excitement or panic. She met my gaze and didn't look away. Mara saw it too. "Her," she said. The woman bolted. She shoved past a passenger, slammed into an attendant, and ran for the front of the plane just as the engines roared louder. People screamed. Someone fell. The cabin tilted slightly as the plane accelerated. A flight attendant lunged, missed, and went down hard, hitting the galley wall with a sickening crack. The woman yanked open a galley compartment, fingers scrabbling. She wasn't going for a door, just trying to destroy something. The phone. I ran. My shoulder slammed into a seatback. Pain shot down my arm. I barely felt it. I grabbed her wrist as she raised the phone and twisted hard, the way my dad once taught me as a kid, just in case. She screamed. The phone clattered to the floor. An attendant tackled her from the side. Another piled on. The woman sobbed, incoherent, thrashing. The plane lurched, then lifted. I hit my knees, breath heaving, ears popping as the ground fell away. My phone buzzed one last time. "Good choice. See you later, Evan." Then the number went dead. The phone from the backpack lay cracked on the floor, screen dark. The list, whatever it was gone. The plane climbed into the night, full of shaken people, and one bleeding flight attendant, and one courier crying quietly into his hands. Mara knelt beside me, her face pale, eyes wet. "You're hurt." I looked down. Blood soaked the knee of my jeans. "I'm okay," I said automatically. I wasn't sure if that was true. The plane leveled off somewhere over the dark quilt of New England, the engines settling into a steady, almost soothing roar that felt obscene given what had just happened. They taped my knee with quick, practiced hands. The flight attendant, her name was Jessa, I learned later sat pale and silent in the jump seat across the aisle with an ice pack pressed to her temple. Someone had wrapped her head in gauze that was already stippled with red. The courier in the gray hoodie had been moved to a row near the back, watched by 2 attendants and a man who quietly identified himself as an off-duty EMT. The woman who'd run had been zip-tied with spare restraints, her phone in pieces in a sealed evidence bag. No one cheered. No one clapped. People avoided looking at me like I'd broken a rule they hadn't known existed. Mara stayed with me through all of it. She held my backpack when they took my phone to photograph it, nodded at the crew when they asked if she'd witnessed anything, pressed a cup of water into my hands when I started shaking again. We didn't talk much. Words felt like they'd been used up. When the captain came on the intercom, his voice was calm in that practiced way. "Ladies and gentlemen, we had a medical situation on board. Everything is under control. We'll be landing shortly, where local authorities will meet the aircraft." Local authorities meant flashing lights at the gate, uniformed figures with neutral faces. It meant standing in the aisle while passengers filed past, eyes flicking to my knee, to Mara's tight mouth, to the zip-tied woman who stared at the floor like it might open. On the jet bridge, the smell of rubber mats came back, grounding and awful. A police officer with a Boston accent took my statement while another spoke quietly to the courier. I heard the courier say, "I didn't know," again and again until the words lost meaning. The officer asked me to describe the texts. I did. He asked me to describe the photo. I did that too, my voice flattening the details into something manageable. They took my phone for a while. They gave it back with a card and a case number. Asked if I wanted to press charges. I said I didn't know. They nodded like that was an acceptable answer. At baggage claim, everything felt wrong in a softer way. The carousel hummed. Suitcases thumped into view. People laughed with relief that they'd made it, that nothing in their world had actually changed. Mara leaned against a pillar and closed her eyes. "Do you want me to stay?" she asked, opening them again. "I can." I surprised myself by saying yes. At the hospital, they cleaned my knee properly. It needed stitches 5, neat and white under the lights. The doctor asked how it happened. I said I fell. He accepted that without curiosity. Jessa got a CT scan and a concussion diagnosis and a ride home. The EMT shook my hand before he left, squeezing once like he was sealing something. Mara sat in a plastic chair, scrolling through her phone without really seeing it. When they finally let me go, it was almost morning. We took a cab. The city looked like itself, brick and glass, and early joggers moving with purpose. Ordinary, cracked sidewalks. A bakery opening its doors, the smell of yeast and sugar briefly sweetening the air. At my place, I stood in the doorway longer than necessary. The lock looked the same. The hallway smelled like my neighbor's curry. My bed was made the way I'd left it. "Do you want me to check?" Mara asked. I nodded. She walked through the apartment with careful steps, opening the bathroom cabinet, the closet, the window by the fire escape. Nothing was out of place. No footprints, no hidden cameras, no sign that anyone had been there. Still, I slept on the couch that morning. When I woke up, the light had shifted and Mara was gone. A note on the counter in careful handwriting. "Text me. Eat something." The days after fell into a pattern I didn't choose. Interviews, emails, a detective who called and said they were following leads, that the woman had been charged, that the courier was cooperating. They couldn't say more. My job told me to take time. I said I would. I didn't. I changed my locks. I bought a small camera for the front door and another for the living room. I turned AirDrop off and left it off. I slept badly. When I did sleep, I woke up convinced I could hear someone breathing in the room, then embarrassed by myself when there was. Mara checked in. We got coffee once. We talked around it, then finally through it, the way you do when pretending is more exhausting than honesty. She admitted she jumped every time her phone buzzed on the flight home. I admitted I'd been replaying the moment I grabbed the bag, wondering how many different ways it could have gone. "Do you regret it?" she asked. I thought about the photo, the addresses, the way the plane had lifted while everything I knew tipped. "No," I said. "I regret that it worked." The investigation moved on without me. That was the strangest part, how quickly it became paperwork, how the shape of it smoothed. The woman pled down. The courier testified. The list was gone, unrecoverable. That was what they told me. That was supposed to be the relief. Weeks later, I found myself back in an airport, a different gate, a different city. I sat with my backpack between my ankles and watched a floor buffer trace lazy arcs across the carpet. The sound still crawled under my skin, but I breathed through it. My phone buzzed. Just a calendar reminder this time. Lunch. I let out a laugh that was half a wince. I checked my settings anyway. AirDrop off. As boarding started, I stood and joined the line. People shuffled forward. A kid dragged a suitcase over the same 2 tiles again and again. Nothing happened. On the plane, I took the window seat. I watched the wing flex against the sky and tried to focus on that, on physics, on the boring miracle of it. After we leveled off, I pulled my phone out to text Mara that I'd landed safely. There was a notification badge on photos. One new image. My heart stuttered, then steadied. Probably a delayed sync. A screenshot I'd forgotten. I opened it. It was a picture of my front door, taken from the hallway, the new lock gleaming. The time stamp from last night. No message. No sender. Just the ordinary rectangle of my life, captured and waiting. I closed the app. I put the phone face down on the tray table. Outside, the clouds slid past, endless and impersonal, and the engine kept its even, comforting song. I breathed. And then I kept breathing, because stopping didn't feel like an option anymore. That's tonight's story. If it gives you chills, make sure to like, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. And if you're still brave enough, there are more dark tales waiting for you right here on the channel. Go watch another, if you dare. Hey everyone, this is Mia Horror Stories, and the title of today's horror story is That Is Not My Dog. Something replaced my pet, and it's learning to bark. For your comfort, the screen will stay black throughout the video, so you can relax without strain and just focus on the story. Make sure you stick around until the end. Sometimes the last few moments are the ones that stay with you the longest. The first thing that felt wrong was the tag. It wasn't like I woke up to horror movie tableau. No overturned furniture. No weird footprints in flour. Just my dog, my very normal, very expensive to feed rescue mutt, standing in the hallway with his head tilted, the metal ID tag on his collar, catching the light from the kitchen like a tiny mirror. I'd heard him moving around in the night, nails ticking softly over the laminate, the little sigh he does before he folds himself down. The usual, the kind of noises you don't notice until you're not alone. But now, the tag said Milo. My dog's name was Archer. I stood barefoot in my socks and stared as if I could will the letters to rearrange themselves. The tag swung when he breathed, tapping the buckle with a faint, irregular click. The hallway smelled like last night's dish soap and the cold, wet air that seeped in under the front door in February. Okay, I said out loud, because talking to an empty hallway is better than letting your brain talk back. That's not funny. The dog Archer watched me with that patient, blank canine look that is either love or mild contempt, depending on how much they've had to deal with your species. He wagged his tail once, twice. Then his ears went up like he'd heard a car door outside. My phone was in my hand without me remembering picking it up. I opened my photo roll and scrolled, thumb moving too fast. Like if I got to the right picture quickly enough, I could keep the moment from turning into something else. There he was last weekend, sprawled on my couch with his paws in the air, belly exposed like he trusted me more than gravity. Archer's collar visible, tag flashing, but the letters were too small to read. I pinched and zoomed until the pixels smudged. Unreadable, of course. Archer, I said, softer now, like I was testing a word in my mouth. Come here. He didn't come. He didn't retreat either. He just shifted his weight, front paws a little more squared, chest forward, like he was bracing for something that might happen. His mouth opened slightly, and his tongue showed, pink and wet. Normal. Except he wasn't panting like he usually did when he was excited. His breathing sounded careful, measured, like he was listening for an instruction. I took one step forward. The tag swung again, and that little click-click was suddenly the loudest thing in the apartment. Then from the living room, A voice, groggy, annoyed, called out, "Can you not stare at him like he's a murderer? It's 6 in the morning." I blinked, and the world snapped back into place. The dim kitchen light, the half-empty water bowl, the pile of shoes by the door, the coat rack leaning a little too far to the left because I still hadn't bothered to tighten the screws. "I'm not staring," I called back. "You are," she said, and I could picture her rubbing her face with one hand, the other reaching blindly for the mug she'd left on the coffee table. "He's fine," I swallowed. "Maya, did you change his tag?" There was a pause, a long enough pause that my skin prickled under my sweatshirt. Then she appeared in the doorway, hair shoved into a messy knot, wearing my old college hoodie because she claimed it was softer than hers. She squinted at the dog, then at me, then at the dog again, like she was trying to catch up to a conversation she'd missed. "Why would I change his tag?" she asked. "Why would anyone change his tag?" I lifted my hand and pointed like I was presenting evidence in court. "Look," Maya leaned forward. The dog didn't move, but his eyes tracked her with a precision that felt sharp, not aggressive, just intensely attentive. Maya's squint deepened. "It says Milo." "Yeah," I said, and my voice came out thin. "As Milo." She straightened, one eyebrow rising. "Okay, that's weird." "Thank you," I said too quickly, relieved she wasn't brushing it off. "Right, that's weird." Maya rubbed her forearm, goosebumps raised despite the heater humming. "Did you order a new one, like online? Sometimes they send the wrong engraving." "I didn't order anything." She walked past me toward the dog, moving slowly in that careful way people do when they don't want to set off an animal. "Archer," she said, warm and familiar. "Hey, buddy." The dog's tail gave another cautious wag. He didn't go to her. Maya's hand hovered above his head for a second before she scratched behind his ears. He flinched. It wasn't dramatic, no yelp, no snapping. Just a tiny recoil, like her touch surprised him. Then he leaned into her fingers, as if he'd remembered he was supposed to enjoy it. Maya's face shifted, subtle but real. "Okay," she said quietly, more to me than to him. "That is also weird." "I didn't hurt him," I said automatically. "I know," she replied, but her eyes stayed on the dog. The dog's mouth opened again, and he made a small sound that wasn't a bark, more like a throat clearing, a wet, tentative huh. He closed his mouth and looked at Maya as if waiting for approval. Maya froze mid-scratch. "Did he just?" "He's been making noises," I said, like he's trying something. "Dogs try things all the time," she said, but the words had lost their confidence. The kettle on the stove clicked as it finished heating, and the sound made all three of us twitch in different ways. Maya exhaled, then forced herself into routine. She poured water into the French press like it was a spell that would keep the morning normal. The smell of coffee bloomed, bitter and familiar, filling the kitchen. I watched the dog instead. His coat looked right. The little white crescent on his chest, the notch in his left ear from whatever happened before the shelter, even the faint scar along his muzzle where he'd once tried to chew through a plastic crate, something the vet had said would fade, but never did. All of it was him. So why did my brain keep insisting there was something off, like a note played slightly flat? Maya slid a mug toward me. "Okay," she said, in her practical voice, the one she used when she was trying not to spiral. "Possibilities. 1, the tag got swapped, like at the groomer or the vet, or he hasn't been to either in 2 months," I said. 2, you're misremembering." "I am not misremembering my dog's name," I snapped, then softened. "Sorry, it's not that." It's the way he's looking at me. Maya took a sip of coffee and stared over the rim at the dog. He's looking at you like a dog. No, I said, and hated how ridiculous I sounded. I gestured, helpless, like he's watching what works. Maya set the mug down carefully. Okay, she said. Then we checked the basics. Microchip, vet records, your photos. Maybe he got out and someone. Don't say it, I cut in, because the thought had already slid into my mind like a knife under a fingernail. Maya's eyes softened. She didn't push. She knew about my thing. Not a dramatic trauma, not a headline. Just a private flaw I carried around. A constant, quiet suspicion that if I didn't keep control of the small pieces of my life, they'd get swapped out when I wasn't looking. Not stolen, replaced. Like someone could move the furniture in my brain a few inches while I slept, and I'd spend the rest of the day bumping into it. It was why I triple-checked locks, why I photographed receipts, why I couldn't stand shared Dropbox folders. It made me feel stupid, which made me hide it, which made it fester. Now my dog's tag said Milo. Maya cleared her throat. Let's look at the collar. I knelt, hands slow, and reached for the dog's neck. He didn't back away, but his muscles tightened under his fur as my fingers slid under the collar. The leather felt worn in the familiar places, stretched where he pulled against it on walks. The buckle had the same scratch from when he'd gotten caught on a fence. My thumb brushed the inside. There was a second tag, not metal, plastic. A little rectangular chip tag, the kind shelters clip on temporarily when they're moving animals between kennels. I lifted it into the light. It was blank. No, I whispered. Maya crouched beside me, her knee bumping mine. That wasn't there before. I would have noticed, I said, and I didn't mean it as arrogance. I meant it as desperation. I check him. I check his paws after walks. I check his collar. The dog made that wet, tentative sound again. He stared at my mouth. Then he tried something else. His chest expanded. His throat tightened. His jaw opened. A sound came out that was almost a bark, but not quite too breathy, like air pushed through a reed. He shut his mouth fast, as if embarrassed. Then he looked between Maya and me, ears angled forward, waiting. Maya's hand flew to cover her lips. Oh my God. The room felt suddenly smaller, as if the coffee smell had thickened into fog. Outside, a car passed on the street, tires hissing on wet pavement. The radiator clicked. Somewhere in another apartment, a phone alarm started and stopped. Normal sounds. Normal world. The dog sat very still in the hallway with a tag that didn't belong to him and a second tag that shouldn't exist. And he was watching us like we were training him, like he wanted to get it right. Maya whispered, we should call someone. My instinct was to say the police. The word rose up automatically, the way it does when you're a kid and something breaks. But this was a collar, a tag, a weird sound, a dog that looked like my dog. What would I even say? Hi, yes, hello. I'd like to report what? That my pet feels wrong. Maya looked at me, and I saw the fork in the road in her expression. Either we treat this like a bizarre paperwork mistake and laugh about it later, or we take it seriously enough to risk feeling stupid in public. She reached for her phone. We can start with the shelter, she said, or your vet, microchip scan. The dog's head turned toward the front door again. That same alert posture. From the hallway outside, faint but clear, came a sound I'd never heard in our building before. A soft, rhythmic tapping, like nails on tile. Maya and I froze. The dog did not move. He only listened, then drew in a careful breath, and tried again to shape his throat into something familiar. "Ha," he whispered, as if practicing. Maya's eyes widened. "Liam," she said, using my name like an anchor. "We need to decide. Do we open the door and see who's out there, or do we lock it and go to the vet right now?" The tapping outside continued, patient and close, and my dog, Manat Dog, sat in the hallway, learning how to bark. Maya didn't wait for my answer. She slid the deadbolt with a sharp clack that sounded louder than it should have, then twisted the second lock for good measure. The tapping outside paused immediately, like whoever or whatever had been listening too. "Okay," she said, too brightly. "Door stays closed. Opens in 40 minutes. We can be there right when they unlock." The dog tilted his head at the sound of the lock, then looked at Maya's hands as if cataloging the motion. His tail thumped once against the wall. I stared at the door. The peephole sat at eye level, a dark glass coin. My heart was doing that unhelpful thing where it sped up without asking my permission. "What if that was another dog?" I said, "like someone in the building. Maybe he smelled, then they'd knock," Maya said. "Or yell. Literally anything other than whatever that was." She picked up her phone again, already scrolling. "I'm calling the vet to make sure they have a scanner ready. And maybe," she hesitated, "maybe animal control if the dog made another sound. This one was closer, less breath, more shape." "Ha," Maya's thumb froze above the screen. "Did you hear that?" "I heard it," I said. My mouth felt dry. He's getting closer." "Closer to what?" "To barking." The word hung between us, stupid and heavy. Maya crouched in front of him again, her voice gentle but tight. "Hey, buddy, it's okay." The dog's eyes flicked to her mouth, then to mine, then back again, quick as a metronome. He inhaled. "Ha-ar-ar." It scraped out of his throat, rough and unfinished, like a word mispronounced by someone who'd only seen it written down. "Nope," Maya said softly. "I don't like that." "Neither do I," she stood up fast. "We need to go now." "Wait, traffic's going to be a mess." And she waved a hand at the dog. "I don't want to be here if he figures out the rest." "That's not fair," I said, even as I nodded. "Dogs learn sounds all the time." "Yeah, from other dogs, or from reinforcement, not from staring at your face like he's reading subtitles." The tapping outside started again. Slower this time, more deliberate. Not nails skittering, knuckles maybe. Or something trying very hard to be quiet. Maya's eyes snapped to the door. "Did you order anything?" "No. Anyone who might come by?" "No." The tapping stopped. A beat passed. 2. Then a voice, muffled by the door, said, "Hello." It was a man's voice. Normal, a little breathless, like he'd taken the stairs. Maya and I looked at each other. "Don't open it," she mouthed. I nodded. The voice tried again. Louder. "Hey, I think I might have your dog." My stomach dropped so hard it felt like missing a step in the dark. The dog in the hallway stiffened. His ears pricked forward, his body suddenly alert in a way that made my skin crawl, not aggressive, not fearful, attentive, interested. Maya whispered, "What did he say?" "He said," I swallowed. "He said he has our dog." The voice outside continued, overlapping me. "I found him downstairs. He's got your building tag. Real friendly guy." Maya shook her head slowly. "That's not possible." I stared at the dog in front of me. Same white crescent, same scar, same collar, same wrong tag. The man outside cleared his throat. "Look, I'm not trying to freak you out. I just don't want to leave him in the lobby. He keeps," a pause. "He keeps barking at the elevator." The word hit like a slap. The dog in the hallway opened his mouth. Ha-RK, it wasn't a bark, but it was close enough that my pulse spiked. Maya grabbed my arm, nails digging in. "Liam, That man needs to leave. What if he actually does have Archer? I whispered. What if this is? I don't care, she said, fierce now. We are not opening that door. The man outside tried the handle, just a test. The lock held. Hey, he said, annoyance creeping in. You don't need to be weird about this. I can see the leash through the peephole. My blood went cold, not in the dramatic way, but in the practical one, like realizing you'd left food out overnight. The leash. I'd left it by the door. Red nylon, frayed near the clip. Maya followed my gaze. Oh no. The dog's head turned slowly toward the leash, then back to us. He made a sound that was unmistakably a bark. Short, sharp, wrong in some subtle way, like the pitch was off by a fraction. The man outside laughed. Hear that? That's him. No, Maya said, louder now. It's not. She stepped in front of the door, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, she said into it, breathless. Hi, I need to report a situation. There's a man outside my apartment claiming to have my friend's dog, but the dog is inside with us. A pause, her face tightened. Yes, I understand that sounds strange. The man outside raised his voice. Lady, I'm standing here with a dog who looks exactly like the one barking inside your apartment. You want me to just let him go? The building's hallway amplified his words, turning them hollow and echoing. I could hear a second set of paws, now lighter, faster, scratching against tile. 2 dogs. My flaw, the one I hated most, reared up then. That old, gnawing certainty that if I didn't control this moment, it would spiral beyond repair. That if I let other people handle it, something would be swapped out, and I'd be left holding the wrong version, wondering when it happened. I need to see, I said. Maya turned on me. No, I need to know, I insisted. If that's him out there, if this is Liam, she said, and now there was fear in her voice. You are not opening that door. The dog beside us watched the exchange, head moving between us like he was following a tennis match. His tail wagged once when my voice rose. The man outside knocked again, harder. Police are going to take a while, he said. I've got places to be. Maya hissed into the phone. They're on their way. Please stay where you are. Another bark echoed from the hallway outside, higher pitched, familiar in a way that made my chest ache. Archer's bark. I stepped toward the door. The dog at my side moved with me, not to block me. Touch me, shoulder to knee. He barked again, perfect this time. Maya grabbed my sleeve. Liam, stop. I just need to look, I said, through the peephole, that's all. Her grip tightened. You're not thinking straight. I never do, I snapped, then regretted it. But I can't live with not knowing. The dog sat when I stopped, obedient and quick, like he'd anticipated the command. His eyes never left my face. Outside, the other dog barked again. Scratched, whined. The man sighed. Seriously, open the door. I leaned toward the peephole and felt a warm breath against my calf. The dog behind me inhaled, deep and steady, and let out a bark so clean and convincing that it made my skin prickle. Maya gasped. He's copying him. The knock came again, sharper now. Last chance. I had my hand on the lock. Behind the door, 2 dogs barked in near perfect sync, and I had to choose which one I believed was mine. I didn't open the door. That's the version of me I want to be. The one who hears last chance from a stranger in a hallway and doesn't move. But my hand stayed on the lock long enough that the metal warmed under my palm, and Maya's nails were still digging into my sleeve when I finally forced myself to step back. Okay, I said, voice shaking with effort. Okay, peephole only. Maya didn't let go. Fine, but don't touch the locks again. I leaned in. The peephole gave me a warped fisheye view of the third-floor hallway. Beige walls, the scuffed carpet runner, the emergency light above the stairwell door. Directly outside our apartment, a man stood with a leash in his hand. My leash. No, different. Blue rope leash, clean, new-looking. He was mid-30s maybe, wearing a black puffer and a beanie pulled low. He was angled slightly away, like he didn't want his face fully on camera. Because yes, there was a camera. Our building had installed those cheap, cloud-connected hallway cams last summer after a package theft spree. The kind that promised peace of mind, but mostly gave you push notifications every time someone walked their dog. The man kept glancing up toward the camera dome, then back at the door. At his feet, a dog strained at the leash. White crescent on the chest, notched ear, same height, same build, archer. My throat tightened so hard it felt like swallowing sand. The dog barked again, high, sharp, frantic. He hopped sideways, nails clicking against the tile. He looked up at the man, then back at our door, then straight into the peephole like he could see me. Behind me, the dog inside my apartment made a soft, eager sound, like a suppressed whine. Maya whispered, "What do you see?" "A guy," I said, "and an archer." "Are you sure?" I stayed glued to the peephole, afraid to blink. "It's him. It's his ear. That notch, that's..." The man outside leaned down and touched the dog's collar. The dog flinched, then lunged again, barking harder. The man looked up at our door. Then, very deliberately, he turned his head toward the hallway camera and raised 2 fingers in a loose wave, like he was trying to be casual for a recording. Then he did something that made my stomach drop. He pulled out his phone, opened the camera, and held it up, pointed straight at our peephole. Not toward the hallway camera, toward me. Maya sucked in a breath. "He's filming." Jerked back from the peephole like it had burned me. The dog inside barked perfectly, crisply, then sat, fast and neat, like he'd learned that barking came with a pause afterward, like punctuation. Maya dragged me into the kitchen by my sleeve. "Okay, attempt 1. We do this the sane way. We call the vet, we call the shelter, we keep the door locked until police arrive." "I don't think police are coming fast," I said. My hands were shaking so hard I spilled half my coffee when I tried to pick it up. "They're going to treat this like a neighbor dispute." "Then we make it not a neighbor dispute," she said. "We make it a safety thing, trespassing, harassment, stalking." I opened the building app with the camera feed. The video buffered, then showed the hallway view from above the stairwell. Our door sat at the bottom of frame. The man was there. The dog was there. A timestamp pulsed in the corner. And then my stomach lurched again. The dog inside my apartment walked into frame. Not on the camera. In real life. Padding down the hall toward the front door with that same careful breathing. Maya blocked him with her leg. "No, no, no." The dog stopped immediately, sat, looked up at her. "Waiting." Maya's voice cracked. "That is not normal. I tried the vet first. It rang, went to voicemail. I tried again, thumb slipping. Maya tried animal control. She got a recorded message about high call volume. My phone buzzed with a notification. Motion detected, 3rd floor hallway. The building camera had triggered. The cloud clip saved automatically. That should have felt like protection. Evidence. Instead, it made my skin crawl, because evidence only matters if someone cares in time. Maya hit live view. The man outside was still there. The outside dog was pulling, twisting, barking in frantic bursts. The man looked up at the hallway camera again. Then he stepped closer to our door and said something I couldn't hear through the silent feed. He held up a hand like he was counting down. Maya muttered, "He's trying to push you." "He's not wrong," I said, and hated myself for it. Attempt 2 was me trying to be clever, because clever is my coping mechanism when panic doesn't work. "I'm calling the building manager," I said. "He has to have contact info." Maya nodded quickly. "Yes, do that." I scrolled through an email chain from last month about the elevator inspection, found a number, called. A sleepy voice answered on the third ring. "Hello. Hi, sorry. This is Liam in 3B, I said fast. "There's a guy outside my door claiming he has my dog. There's a dog inside my apartment. I need you to check the lobby cameras." Now, a pause, paper rustled. "Sir, it's 6:15. "I know," I said, "I'm sorry. But he's here, on the 3rd floor, with a dog. And he's filming my door." Maya leaned in, listening. Her eyes flicked to the front door every few seconds like she expected it to explode inward. The manager exhaled, annoyed. Okay, I'm going to log in, hold on." I heard typing, a long stretch of it. Then he said slower, "I'm not seeing anyone on the lobby feed." "What?" I said. "No one, lobby's empty. I see the mailboxes, the front door, no dog, no guy, nothing." My skin prickled. "Check the 3rd floor. Those cameras don't record continuously," he said. "They're motion clips. I don't have live access from my end." That's through the resident app." Maya mouthed, "Of course." "Then come up here," I said. "Please, you live nearby, right?" "You can, sir," he said, irritation turning into caution. "I'm not coming into the building because someone's standing outside your door with a dog. Call the police." We did. Then wait. I closed my eyes, jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "Fine, thank you," I hung up. Behind us, the dog inside made that soft, almost human exhale again. "Patient. Present." Maya whispered, "If the lobby's empty, it means he didn't come in through the front," I said. Misdirection landed like a punch. My brain immediately jumped to vents, to fire escapes, to nonsense. But the building was old and practical. There was a service stairwell that led to the basement laundry room and out to the rear lot. There was also the trash door, the one that never latched properly. A real way in. Maya was already thinking it too. Backstairs. The knock came again, louder, not tapping now. Knuckles firm. The outside dog barked over it, frantic and breathless. Maya flinched. "He's escalating." The dog inside stood, walked to the door again, sat perfectly, looked up at the lock. Then he did something that made my stomach twist. He lifted his paw and placed it on the bottom edge of the door, exactly where a dog would scratch to be let out. He didn't scratch. He just held it there, like he'd seen the gesture somewhere, and knew it was part of the script. Maya's face went pale. "He wants it open." "No," I said. "He wants to see what happens." My phone buzzed again. Another motion alert. In the live view, the man outside shifted his weight and tugged the outside dog closer. The dog twisted, trying to pull away, and for one awful second, the leash looped around his neck. From the camera angle, it looked like the man was choking him. Maya gasped. "Oh my God." But then the man bent down quickly, fingers working the loop loose. The dog stumbled, coughed, then barked again, still frantic, but alive. An accident, not an attack. A terrifying image with a mundane explanation. My heart didn't care. It hammered anyway. "He's not going to leave," Maya said. "And Archer, if that's him, he's going to hurt himself." I looked at the door, the locks, the peephole, the leash by the hook. My private flaw tightened around my ribs, the need to resolve it now, even if it meant doing something stupid. Especially if it meant doing something stupid. "We go out the back," I said, and the words came out before Maya could stop them. We don't open the front. We go down the service stairs, out to the rear lot, around to the front entrance, and we call to Archer from the lobby side. If he's real, he comes to me. If he's not, we're still outside, Maya finished, eyes wide. With him. With them, I said, because the plural felt important. Maya shook her head hard. No, that's worse. It's time sensitive, I said. He's winding up. And Archer, my Archer, is, my throat closed. He's going to get taken away. Maya stared at me, then at the dog inside, who sat calmly like he was listening to a plan being made about him. Her voice dropped. If we leave this apartment with him, and he's not Archer, we're walking him into the world. I didn't have an answer that didn't sound insane. The knock on the front door became pounding. Open up, the man shouted, losing the friendly tone. I'm not doing this all morning. The dog inside barked perfectly, confidently, then padded toward the kitchen, toward the service door that led to the building hallway at the back, the one we used for taking out trash. Maya followed him, horror dawning on her face. Liam, did you lock the back door? I hadn't. We never did. It only latched from the outside. A stupid design. A familiar negligence. The dog rose on his hind legs and pressed his paw to the handle like he'd seen me do it 100 times. He pushed down. The latch clicked, and the back door swung inward with a soft, ordinary sigh. Point of no return. Because now the dog wasn't just waiting to be let out. He was letting himself out. The back door opened like it had done it 1,000 times. Not with a bang. Not with drama. Just a soft swing on tired hinges, and that faint smell that always lived in the service corridor. Bleach, damp cardboard, old paint, and the ghost of someone's cigarette from the rear lot. The dog stepped through first. He didn't bolt. He didn't glance back at me the way Archer always did, checking whether I was coming. He moved with that careful, measured pace he'd been practicing all morning, nails clicking on the concrete like he was counting. Maya grabbed the edge of the door, eyes wide. No, she hissed, as if saying it louder would change physics. No, 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 the pounding at the front door continued, muffled now by distance, but still there, like a second heartbeat in the apartment. Open up. I made a decision I didn't feel myself make. My body just moved. I lunged, caught the dog by the collar, and yanked him back hard enough that the metal tag snapped against the buckle. Milo, it flashed at me. He didn't yelp. Archer would have yelped, or at least flinched like he'd been offended by my rudeness. This dog turned his head slowly and looked at my hand. Then he barked clean, crisp, perfectly pitched, and the sound hit me like a command. Maya grabbed my wrist. Liam, get the leash, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. The red one, now. Maya hesitated, then snatched it from the hook by the front door and ran back, socks slipping on the tile. She fumbled with the clip, hands shaking. The dog watched her hands again, tracking, learning. I had him pinned in the doorway between my thighs and the door frame, one hand dug under the collar, the other braced against the wall. My heart hammered so hard I could taste metal. Maya clipped the leash on. The dog sat instantly, not because he was trained, because he knew sitting was what came next. Okay, Maya whispered. Okay, we have him, we have him. The latch clicked again in the service corridor. Not our latch, not the back door. A different one, deeper down the corridor. A door opening from the stairwell. Maya's face went pale. Someone's back there. I strained my ears, heard a faint scuff of boots on concrete, a soft chink like keys brushing a handrail. Then the outside dog barked somewhere close, but distorted by walls. Hi, frantic, familiar, Archer. My throat tightened around his name. The dog at my side barked back. Same pitch, same cadence, like an answer. Maya jerked the leash. Stop. It wasn't a command to the dog. It was to me, to my instincts, to that part of me that wanted to fling the back door open and chase the sound like a drowning man chasing air. The pounding at the front door turned into something worse. A heavy thud, a shoulder. The whole door frame trembled. The man shouted, "I can hear you in there. Don't make this harder." Maya's eyes flicked between the front hallway and the back corridor. Trapped. "Okay," she whispered, voice tight. "We can't stay here. Front is compromised. Back is," she swallowed. "Back is unknown." The dog pressed his shoulder against my leg, not struggling, just present, anchored, waiting. And then it clicked in my head, sharp as a snapped cable. He wasn't trying to escape randomly. He had opened the back door because it led to the service stairs, the rear lot, the blind spot, the route the building manager didn't see, the route someone else had used to bring an identical dog to our floor without ever showing up in the lobby feed. "Service stairs," I said. "That's how he got up here." Maya's jaw clenched. "So whoever's back there is with him." The dog's ears perked at the word stairs, like he understood. I pulled Maya toward the kitchen, away from the front door. "We go out back," I said. "Not to run, to get eyes, to make noise, to force a witness." Maya stared at me like I'd lost it. "Witness where? The rear lot. It's someone will be taking out trash. Someone will be walking down to the laundry. We need people, cameras. The hallway cam doesn't record continuously, but it triggers on motion. We trigger it." Maya's breathing came fast. "And what drag?" She glanced at the dog. "Him with us. We can't leave him in the apartment," I said, and I hated that my voice cracked. "If we leave, the front door goes." And then another slam rocked the front door. A metallic scrape, like something trying the lock mechanism itself. Maya flinched. Okay, fine, back door now." She swung it wider and the service corridor yawned open, long, narrow, fluorescent lit, with a row of utility closets on the left and the laundry room at the far end. To the right, a gray metal stairwell door stood ajar by a few inches. That's where the latch sound had come from. Maya whispered, "Hello." No answer. Just the distant bark again. Closer now, echoing up the stairwell. "Archer." My chest tightened so hard it hurt. The dog beside me leaned forward, leash taut, ears high. He made a soft, breathy attempt at a whine, like he was trying on the emotion as well as the sound. Maya moved first, because she was braver than me in that particular way, braver in the way that counted when your brain was screaming to freeze. She shoved the stairwell door open. It clanged against the wall. The sound bounced down the concrete stairwell like a dropped pan. And there, halfway down the stairs, was Archer, my Archer. I knew it in the stupid, absolute way you know your own handwriting. His tail was tucked, his paws splayed awkwardly on the step like he'd slipped. His collar looked wrong, too loose. And there was a fresh red scrape on his throat where something had rubbed him raw. A rope leash. Blue. The same rope leash the man outside held. Archer barked once, sharp and scared, and scrambled up 2 steps toward us. Behind him, lower down, a man's voice snapped. "No stay." A figure moved up from the landing. Black puffer beanie. The same man. My stomach dropped through the floor. He took 2 stairs at a time, one hand on the rail, the other holding the blue rope leash, and his eyes darted to the dog on our leash, the inside dog, like he was checking inventory. For a split second, his face did something ugly, like annoyance, like disappointment. Then he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Oh," he said, breathless. "There he is. Great, hand him over and we're all done." Maya's voice came out thin. "Why are you in the back stairwell?" He spread his hands like we were being unreasonable. "Because you wouldn't open the front door." Another bark came from upstairs, from our apartment side. The hallway, someone else. A second set of steps, heavy, moving fast above us. And the hallway camera would be triggered, grabbing a motion clip of what? A chase, a struggle. My mind tried to split into two and failed. Maya saw it too, her eyes widened. Liam, the man on the stairs, glanced up sharp, and his pleasant mask slipped. "Don't," he said. "Don't do anything stupid." Archer whimpered and tried to climb toward me again, nails scraping concrete. His body trembled. His throat scrape looked angry and fresh. The inside dog Milo barked once, clean and calm, then sat, like he was watching a scene he'd rehearsed. I did something I will hate myself for forever. I stepped toward Archer and let go of Milo's leash with my other hand to reach. Maya hissed, "Liam." Milo surged forward, not at Archer, at the man. He lunged down 2 steps, fast and silent, mouth open, not snapping wildly, but aiming. The man jerked back, startled, and Milo's teeth caught fabric, not flesh. The black puffer tore with a ripping sound that seemed impossibly loud in the stairwell. The man swore and swung his elbow down hard. It connected with Milo's skull. A dull, sick thump. Milo crumpled sideways, stunned, leash slipping through Maya's fingers as she screamed. Maya grabbed for the leash again, missed, and her shoulder slammed into the stairwell wall. She gasped, eyes watering. Archer yelped a real yelp, panicked, and bolted upward past us, into the service corridor, claws skittering on concrete as he ran toward the apartment back door, toward the front door, toward the pounding. "Archer," I shouted, and my voice cracked apart. Maya lunged after him, stumbling, one hand clutching her shoulder. "No, no, no." The man seized the moment. He grabbed the blue rope leash and sprinted upward, past us, eyes on Archer like he was chasing a dropped wallet. In the corridor, everything happened at once. Archer skidded near the back door, confused by the smell of our apartment and the violence behind him. The front pounding hit again, and the whole apartment door rattled. Maya reached Archer first, grabbing his collar with both hands. Archer twisted, terrified, and his raw throat made him cry out. "Easy," Maya sobbed. "Easy, baby, please." The man grabbed the blue rope and swung it, trying to loop Archer's neck in one practiced motion. I saw the move, the familiarity of it, the efficiency. He'd done this before. I threw myself forward and caught his forearm with both hands. Our bodies slammed into the utility closet door, the metal dented. Pain shot up my wrist. He was stronger than me, not outrageously, just enough. He snarled, "Let go." I didn't. I couldn't. I dug my nails in like that would matter. From inside the apartment, the other pounding stopped. A lock clicked. The front door opened. My stomach turned to ice. Second man's voice called, "What the hell is going on back there?" Maya's head snapped up, eyes wide. Archer barked, ragged, hoarse, real. The hallway camera chirped a tiny confirmation sound as it caught motion. The man I was grappling with froze for half a beat, calculating. Then he did the only thing that made sense for someone like him. He let go. He shoved me hard into the closet door, and I stumbled, wrist screaming. He bolted down the service corridor toward the stairwell, boots pounding. Gone. Maya collapsed against the wall, clutching Archer to her chest like he was a child. Archer shook so hard his tags jingled. And behind us, on the stairwell landing, Milo stood unsteadily on wobbly legs, head tilted, eyes bright and calm. He opened his mouth and barked, perfectly, not frantic, not afraid, like he was trying to prove something, like he was showing us he'd learned. Maya stared at him, tears on her face, and whispered, "Liam, what do we do with that?" I looked at Archer trembling in her arms, throat scraped raw, eyes wide with trust and terror. Then I looked at Milo, and I realized the cost wasn't just bruises and torn fabric. It was that I couldn't unknow what I'd seen, because even with Archer in my arms, even with the threat sprinting away, I still wasn't sure what Milo was going to do next. The police arrived 22 minutes later. I know because Maya timed it on her phone while sitting on the kitchen floor with Archer pressed against her chest. Her hoodie soaked through where his throat scrape had started bleeding again. He shook the entire time, not violently, just a constant tremor like he was cold in a way heat couldn't fix. My wrist had already started to swell. Purple bloomed under the skin in a shape that looked like a map I didn't recognize. I kept flexing my fingers to prove to myself nothing was broken, even though every movement sent a dull ache up my arm. Adrenaline had burned off, leaving everything louder and heavier. Milo sat in the hallway, not pacing, not hiding, just sitting, head tilted, watching the front door like a well-trained dog waiting for permission. When the first officer knocked 3 firm, official raps, Milo barked. Once, perfectly. I flinched harder at that than at the knock. Maya looked at me, eyes rimmed red. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't react, please." I didn't open the door this time. She did, standing slowly, Archer never leaving her arms. 2 officers came in, 1 male, 1 female. Late 30s maybe, calm voices, neutral faces. They took in the apartment with that practiced sweep. Overturned chair near the utility closet door, dent in the metal, leash on the floor, my wrist already swelling. Maya's scraped shoulder, Archer's injury. Then their eyes landed on Milo. The female officer crouched automatically, professional warmth kicking in. "Hey there, buddy," Milo wagged his tail, sat straighter. "Is that your dog?" she asked. "No," Maya said immediately. "Yes," I said at the same time. We both froze. I swallowed. "I mean, no, it's not. It looks like my dog." "But my dog is," I nodded to Archer, who whined softly and pressed his face into Maya's neck. "That's Archer." The male officer raised his eyebrows. "2 dogs." "Yes," Maya said, "identical. One of them was brought here by a man who tried to take Archer." I gave them the short version. Maya filled in details when my words tangled. The blue rope leash, the back stairs, the hit to Milo's head, the hallway camera. They listened. They always do at first. Then came the questions that felt like gravity slowly turning back on. "Are you sure you didn't recently foster?" "No." "Are you sure someone couldn't have swapped collars?" "I'm sure. Dogs can look very similar." "I know." Animal control arrived next. A woman with a calm voice and a heavy jacket that smelled faintly of disinfectant and wet fur. She scanned Archer's microchip first. It beeped. Numbers came up, matched the vet records on file. She scanned Milo. Nothing. She frowned, tried again. Different angle. Still nothing. "Sometimes chips migrate," she said, but her voice had lost some of its automatic reassurance. They checked Milo's collar more closely. The blank plastic tag underneath. No writing. No serial number. No shelter logo. "Where did this come from?" the animal control officer asked. "I don't know," I said. She nodded like that answer fit more than I wanted it to. An ambulance came, though neither of us wanted it. The EMT wrapped my wrist and told me to get an X-ray. He cleaned Maya's shoulder scrape. He looked at Archer's throat and told us to go to the emergency vet immediately. They separated the dogs. That part hurt more than anything else. Archer went with Maya into the bedroom. The door closed gently behind them. Milo was led into the hallway on a catch pole, not because he'd done anything aggressive, but because procedure didn't care about vibes. He walked without resistance, glancing back once, eyes bright and curious. He barked softly as the door closed, not distressed, just noting it. The man was never found. The hallway camera footage showed exactly what you'd expect, and nothing more. A man in a black puffer, a dog on a blue rope leash, no clear face. The service stairwell camera had been broken for months, maintenance ticket filed, never prioritized. The second man from the front hallway claimed he'd heard shouting, opened his door, and seen someone run. That was it. The vet shaved Archer's neck and cleaned the abrasion. "It'll heal," she said, "but he's going to be sore and shaken." "Will he be okay?" Maya asked. The vet paused. "Physically, yes." She didn't say anything about the rest. Milo was taken pending investigation. That's the phrase they used. Animal control said he'd be evaluated, held, possibly rehomed if no owner came forward. They asked if we wanted to claim him. Maya said no without hesitation. I didn't answer fast enough. The animal control officer looked at me carefully. "You okay with that decision?" I nodded. Yes. It felt like lying, even though it was. They left us with paperwork and pamphlets, and the smell of antiseptic lingering in the air. The apartment felt too quiet after. Not empty, just wrong in its proportions, like a room after furniture has been moved. That night, Archer slept pressed against my legs, his breathing shallow but steady. Every time he shifted, I woke up. Every time a car passed outside, my heart jumped. At some point, Archer barked in his sleep, a short, panicked sound. I sat up instantly. He was still there, warm, solid. Mine. Weeks passed. The bruise on my wrist faded from purple to yellow. Maya's shoulder healed. Archer's throat scabbed, then scarred. The building manager finally fixed the service stairwell camera. The front door got a new lock. Life slid back toward normal in small, careful steps. Almost normal. I started taking Archer to a different park. I avoided the service corridor. I flinched when dogs barked in sync across the street. Once, at the grocery store, my phone buzzed with a push notification from the building app. Motion detected. 3rd floor hallway. My stomach dropped. It was just a neighbor carrying laundry. At least, that's what the clip showed. Maya moved out 2 months later. Not because of what happened exactly, just timing. But when she hugged me goodbye, she held on longer than usual. "Trust yourself," she said quietly. "But don't do it alone." I promised I would. I mostly keep that promise. The animal control officer called once more, weeks later. "No one claimed the dog," she said. "No chip, no records." He was unusually adaptive behaviorally. Smart. I waited. "We placed him with a specialized trainer," she continued. "He's doing well." "Does he have a name?" I asked. A pause, paper rustling. "They're calling him Milo," she said. After the call, I sat on the couch with Archer's head in my lap and stared at the wall until the light changed. That night, as I locked up, Archer stood by the door and watched me, head tilted. I reached down and scratched behind his ears. He leaned into my hand, warm and familiar, breathing easy. Then he barked, just once, perfectly normal. Still, I checked his collar before bed, just to be sure.